Oh, yes, indeed. The madness of March is upon us, and we welcome you into Gwynn and Chris, everybody. Happy Monday to you, kicking off a new week here. Chrisello, Matt Skraby, together today. We're not actually together. I've gone to Las Vegas with the Aztec basketball team. Skraby is at the Odyssey Palace Studios in San Diego. Tony Gwynn Jr., we're spread out all over the place. He is down in Peoria calling Padres baseball. They're down in Arizona today, calling Padres baseball. Padres were ahead. Last check over the Mariners. Skraby 4-1.
Yes.
Manny Machado with a 2-run single today, and Luis Campusano chipping in with an RBI double. You know well, first let me say hello. How are you? Welcome. How you been? How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good, I gotta say. I didn't do much. I played a lot of video games on Saturday, and then I walked the dogs. I went on a hike. It was good stuff. How about yours?
I've never asked you this exactly. What? How long is a typical video game sit down for you? Like if you got nothing, like if you don't have anywhere to be, right? You got a Saturday afternoon, you've already walked the dog, everybody's out of the house, you're sitting down, you're gonna play video games, you got your favorite thing. How many hours you going?
This is kind of embarrassing, but I'll say like 6.
What?
4, 5, 6.
6 hours?
Well, here's the thing.
Oh my goodness.
I have decided that I'm not playing video games during the week because I was staying up too late. And so I basically play Saturdays. That's my day now is video game day. So it's like 6 hours. I'll just keep going and going and going and going and going. It's so much fun.
And I know you. I mean, I think I know you. I mean, you have to 6-hour period. I would think you'd have to break at least 2 or 3 times to eat something. Do you not take a break, or do you pause the console?
I'm kind of like
the console and go grab a bite to eat.
Well, actually, I have to leave the online lobby so that it doesn't put me in any games while I'm gone, because that's happened before, where it puts me into games and I'm just standing there, and then people are just killing me, and then I have bad points. So I have to leave the lobby, and I have to make sure that I'm not in any part of the games. But that I understand that's a ridiculous amount of time.
That is a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm glad that you admitted to it, because there's somebody out there, some husband somewhere who plays video games for like 4 hours on a Saturday, and his wife gives him endless crap about it, and now he can turn to her and go, "Hey, at least I'm only playing 4."
But that's the thing is if I was married, this wouldn't be a thing. I would not be playing 6 hours in one day.
I can tell you for a fact you would never get 6.
I fully understand that.
I'm lucky if I get 6 minutes to do anything on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, what about you then? What did you do on Saturday afternoon other than fly to Las Vegas?
That's pretty much, that was my day. I got into Las Vegas Saturday and enjoyed some time with my goddaughter who lives here in Las Vegas and her new baby, 1-year-old Leo. And we had some fun and, got the Aztec women's basketball tournament off to a good start. They won last night, looked impressive. And now we'll play again tonight, and hopefully the girls will play well again, and they'll be able to advance to the semifinals. It's the best time of year, Skrabe. I know the Super Bowl is great. I know some people go for the Fall Classic. I know that some people, whatever else it is. Yeah, opening day is a big. Well, opening day is kind of in this time, I mean, to me, March is just the best. The NCAA basketball tournaments, the men, now the women have really stepped up, and it's much more interesting and exciting to watch their tournaments now than it's ever been before. And yeah, I mean, you've got spring training happening. And on top of that, Skrabe, now you can put free agency in football. I mean, are you kidding me with some of the moves that were made today in the NFL, opening day of free agency? Somebody ought to.
It's not even the opening day, Chris. It's the legal tampering period right now.
Okay, well, whatever it is, it's the day that we can start finding out about stuff.
Yeah.
But my point is, baseball ought to be paying attention to this, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Baseball's free agency period was such a dud, and it still continues to be a dud in the sense that a lot of really good players still don't have jobs.
Yeah.
The NFL. I mean, here we are. This is the week that the Padres leave for Korea. This is the beginning of the brand new Major League Baseball season. And all of the headlines in sports are focused on the National Football League, because when they get to free agency, They make stuff happen, Craig.
I agree, and this is what I was calling for on the Skraby Show. In the early years of the Skraby Show, early months of the Skraby Show, I said that they need a free agent signing period to create the intrigue to get us talking about baseball, and they even started talking about it, but players are not necessarily on board, teams are not necessarily on board, but they need something because we are so excited with this news, and it could be like that for baseball too.
Yeah, baseball's got to figure out that that's just the way you have to do it, whether the players and the teams want to or not. You need to have a dedicated time that free agents can sign because it just creates buzz, which you cannot pay. You cannot buy that kind of buzz, right? The NFL, it's unbelievable right now. All anybody's talking about. Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta today, right? What else did we have? I mean, just huge stories.
Saquon Barkley to the Eagles.
Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. We got Josh Jacobs going to the Packers. We've got let's see. I mean, I'm looking at headlines here on my phone.
So Baker Mayfield re-signs with the Buccaneers.
I mean, Swift went somewhere today.
Oh, DeAndre Swift. He went to gosh, I'm blanking on it right now. There were so many moves that I can't remember.
So many moves I can't keep track of them. And if I didn't have my phone, I would have written them all down. But it's just, I mean, the Miami Dolphins lost half their team today. Basically,
DeAndre Swift is now with the Bears, which is the Bears are an interesting team because I think they're showing all their cards. They're drafting Caleb Williams. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And if I'm Justin Fields, I'm very angry about it because they gave me nothing while I was there, and they're going to give Caleb Williams all this other stuff.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the Bears some other time. But the big point here right now is that the NFL free agency is dominating the headlines.
Oh, wait. I have to mention this.
Yeah.
The chat wants me to mention it. And by the way, you could watch on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan. Your guy Wilkins is going to the Raiders.
Oh, I'm aware of that. Yeah. And we lost our star guard, Robert Hunt, signed with another team. The Texans or somebody like that. So, yeah, Miami lost two big free agent guys already today. Running backs are changing teams. Marcus Pollard, the Dallas running back, signed with the Titans, I believe it was. Tony Pollard. Yeah, what did I say? Marcus Pollard.
Yeah, Titans. That's interesting, too.
Yeah, well, that might be the end for Derrick Henry in Tennessee if it wasn't already. So, but, I mean, this is what you do if you want to dominate the earth, right? And that's what the National Football League has done. The National Football League runs all of our lives. And, we may not want to admit it, but it's true. When they say jump, we say how high. When they say pay attention to us, we stop everything we're doing and we pay attention to the NFL. And in this case, Skrabe, what it means is we're not paying attention to baseball and spring training and the start of a season. We're not paying attention even to March Madness and the NCAA and the conference tournaments and all of the excitement that brings. We're certainly not paying attention to the fact that the Lakers won two big games over the weekend and beat Minnesota last night. Anthony Davis had a historic game, et cetera, et cetera. None of that stuff matters to us because the National Football League has spoken. And the National Football League has said, hey, we're going to dominate today, and here are our headlines. So the rest of you sports, deal with it. And that's how you work it. Okay. That's how you do it. I mean, that's what's happened here. And, I love March Madness. I love spring training. I don't love spring training, but you know what I mean? The run up to a baseball season and opening day and all the excitement. But the NFL has taken my attention today. I mean, you turn on any sports. You turn on a sports TV show tonight. What do you think is going to be the headline story? Kirk Cousins? And if it's not Kirk Cousins, it's going to be Tony Pollard.
Or Saquon Barkley.
If it's not Tony Pollard, it's going to be Saquon Barkley.
It's definitely going to be
Saquon Barkley. But you know what I'm saying?
I do.
It's the big deal in a time when there's other major things happening. Those all have to take a back seat to you have to stand in awe of the power of the National Football League. You just do. It's absolutely overwhelming.
It almost makes me want to go the other way just because of how powerful they actually are. Did you just take a drink off of your soda?
I did. I took a sip. Wow, I was a little heated in my last statement.
That was hilarious.
I needed to take a drink after that last statement. But no, I've seen this before, and it's impressive what they do. And I respect for what you're saying, that, you know what, just because they're trying to control me, I'm going to go the other way. But you're not going to.
No.
You're not going to. When it's time for a football game to come on, you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
And you're going to bet on it, or you're going to have your fantasy players in it, or whatever the case may be. But you will have interest, and that's just the way it goes. And, I mean, if you're the other sports, you can't even try to compete with them. What you have to do is hope that something major just doesn't happen when you're trying to promote what's going on in your sport.
Yeah.
Because football will steal it.
I'm looking on the chat. I mean, I think San Diego is a place where I don't want to say a number, but I think that San Diego is a place where they love NFL, but there are some that don't like the NFL, and they're disagreeing with you right now, which is fine. But I can't say that Major League Baseball's free agency was exciting at all. It was actually more annoying than anything because there's been no news.
Yeah. No, it was totally not exciting, and I respect the people on the chat that are diehard, live and die every breath with the Padres, and that's number one to them. And I appreciate that. You're a diehard Padre fan, but if you step back for a minute and look at the landscape, you will see the same thing I see, and that is that the National Football League nowadays runs roughshod over Major League Baseball. I'm sorry. I'm a baseball guy, Skraby. I played baseball. I've covered baseball. I've been in baseball my whole life. But the NFL dominates. And you could just look at what's happening today to give you a total, to almost to prove it, or to help confirm it anyway. They're taking over on a day when we should be talking about the Padres and the weekend and some of the pitching matchups and some of the battles that are, coming right down to the wire for roster spots. NFL free agency is far bigger than that.
It is.
Sorry. It is.
But I do.
Anyway, Skraby will have a.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I do love watching the standings for the Cactus League Championship. So.
Yes, I know you do.
I love it.
I know. Where are the Padres currently?
No idea.
Since you watched, I thought you said you watched.
They're not in contention for the Cactus League title. Okay, they're not.
I know they're not.
They're not.
All right. Well, Skraby's we're gonna have an interesting show for you today with me in Las Vegas and getting ready to do an Aztec basketball game a little later. Got Tony calling Padres baseball. It's going to be a bit of a split squad. I'm going to be with Skraby for the first hour or two of the show. Tony's going to join for the second hour or two of the show. But we'll be in and out a little bit, so there'll be some Skraby segments along the way. And one of those segments in the 3 o'clock hour, Skraby will, in detail, break down all of the free agent moves that were made today in the National Football League. But it was crazy, crazy day. I mean, big names changing teams.
Yes, and
we're not just talking about we're not talking about backup outfielders here. We're talking about Pro Bowl running backs, Pro Bowl quarterbacks, wide receivers, all moving today around the National Football League.
I have some big news from the Padres game. Jackson Merrill has homered to center. So now he's on the board with some,
my goodness,
with some power. There we go.
Now he's got a home run now. That's it. Okay.
That's all I got. Well, the clap.
If he wasn't already godlike in the eyes of Padre fans, he just took another step forward to being a deity. So that's fantastic. Jackson Merrill has had a great spring. So have so many of the other young players for the Padres, and hopefully it's all going to translate into a wonderful season. All right, we are underway for this Monday program. Chris Ello from Las Vegas, Matt Skraby from the Odyssey Palace Studios, Tony Gwynn Jr. in Arizona will be joining us a little bit later. You're there. You can watch on YouTube. You can listen on 97.3 The Fan. When we come back, the Aztecs basketball team, they will be coming to Las Vegas on Wednesday, and they will be getting ready for the Mountain West Conference Tournament. Is another March Madness run in the cards for the Aztecs. I hate to say it It doesn't really look like it right now. We will discuss some of that when Gwynn and Chris comes back on 97.3 The Fan.
Don't have time to listen to an entire fan.
Chris Ella for my friends at Spiro's Mediterranean Cuisine in La Jolla and in sorry about that. La Jolla and in Coronado. Yeah, we do have some technical things when I'm on the road, but you get the idea. It's all about the hummus. It's all about the great food. 5-1 at the top of the 5th inning. Yu Darvish, 4 innings, allowed 3 hits and 1 run. So Darvish is pitching well. And offensively, Luis Campusano has an RBI double. Manny Machado has a 2-run single. And as Skraby said just a little while ago, Jackson Merrill hit his first home run of the spring, a solo shot over the center field wall.
Not only
Merrill's
that, Chris.
2 for 2 in the ball game.
Sorry, I just yelled into your ear. So not only that, Manny Machado went 3 for 3 over the weekend. We know who's starting game 1 and game 2 now. This is like we're getting into it. We're getting into it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If the Padres regular season goes as well as the spring has in terms of individual performance, we're going to be having a terrific season.
Yeah.
Right? The
It'll
Padres couldn't ask for anything more this spring. I mean, they have had so many guys, young guys, step up and contribute in spring training. And you know, still are they going to be able to do similar things once the regular season begins? But you know, right now you have to love what you're seeing. Look at this lineup today against the Mariners. And is this going to be the opening day lineup against the Dodgers? Bogart, Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado DHing, Kim, Graham Pauley is now at third base, Campusano, Profar, and Merrill. That's the lineup today. That sounds to me like pretty much what you're going to see. I had thought Tyler Wade, because Tony told me that Tyler Wade might win that third base job. I'm blaming Tony for that. I guess he could, but Graham Pauley's seems like he's past him now. Graham Pauley seems to be the number one guy. So, you know, I mean, that the lineup that you're looking at today could very well be the lineup on opening day. And this spring has been fantastic for the Padres. They have had so many nice things happen. All of the young pitchers have pitched well, starters and relievers. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's really gotten hurt except for Matsui. Matsui's been the one guy that's had some injury issues with the back spasms.
And even
stuff.
that's not that bad.
But other than doesn't seem like it's that bad. Yeah, I mean, but the starting pitching rotation, you don't know exactly who's going to win everything because everyone's put their best foot forward. So, you know, like I said, hopefully April will look as good as March has for the Padres because it's been a real good and successful spring training.
It's like everybody.
Now, the record is. I was just going to say the record is only 7-9. But you're not looking at record. You're looking at what individual guys are doing, and you're judging as to whether you think they can contribute in the major leagues. And they're getting a lot of positive responses to that.
They are. And for everybody who doesn't know, Chris and I are on a small delay, so we're trying our best here. And I think we're doing an okay job. I just yell sometimes, and it cuts off this.
We're on a small delay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Well, we'll power on through.
Yes, correct.
The Aztecs last night or Friday night got beat by Boise State 79-77.
Did you go? Did you go?
I did. I went to the game because I wanted to see the senior night activities. Wanted to see Lamont Butler get honored. He got a huge ovation, as you might expect.
Nice.
Jaden Ledee got a great ovation. All of the kids did. Yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, they lose the game in overtime. And, you know, all of a sudden now San Diego State can't win a close game in basketball. And, you know, their undefeated home season went out the window. They were lucky. They were really lucky to end up at least getting the bye in the first round of the Mountain West Conference tournament. Had New Mexico beaten Utah State Saturday at a point game, then the Aztecs would have slid all the way down to the 6th seed. They would have had to play a first-round game. But at least they get a bye.
Yeah, that's bad. But
now their road to win the Mountain West Conference Championship, they got to beat UNLV on UNLV court in the first game. Season Utah State in the second game. And then if they win those two, they'll have to still win a third against any number of good teams. But I'm not as concerned about the Mountain West Conference Champions. I'm about, you know, the March and the Madness and the NLAs. The Aztecs' chances, the 4 seed is gone. That's long gone. They now have no chance to get that cushy 4 seed. A 5 seed is certainly in question in my mind. They could end up falling to a 6. especially if they don't beat UNLV on Thursday. And if they're a 6 seed, they're going to draw a team from a power conference as they have before in the first round. And it's going to be a big challenge right off the bat for the Aztecs. And the difference between this year's team and last year's team is very little, all right, except for one thing. Last year's team never lost a close game. They always found a way to win. This year's team, unfortunately, has been the exact opposite. And I don't know,
yes.
I don't know what the reasoning for it is, other than the fact that that's just how sports works. I went back and I looked. They lost an overtime game at the beginning of last season in the Maui Classic to Arkansas. After that game, the Aztecs last season and to begin this season won 11 games in a row that were either in overtime or decided by one possession. 11 in a row. And that includes, Creighton in the Elite Eight. That includes Florida Atlantic in the Final Four, et cetera, et cetera. But since that streak, the Aztecs have now lost 6 games in a row that have gone to overtime or been decided by one possession. And in the NCAA tournament, maybe not every game is going to be one possession, but almost all of them will be. And you got to be winning those games, and you have the confidence that you can win those games. And right now, unfortunately, this team doesn't have it.
No, they don't. But at least they're getting it. At least they're getting it out of the way now, because now all they can do is just win.
Yeah,
they can only go up from here.
You're right. It can change with one game. You win one, and then all of a sudden you have a good feeling about those close games. But what happened Friday night? They lost the game in large part due to the fact that Max Rice, the coach's son for Boise State, made a 45-foot jump shot with the shot clock running out in overtime.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. They defended the possession perfectly. They were down by 2 points. They were going to get the ball back with a chance to tie or win. And this guy picks up the loose ball, heaves it at the basket, and it goes right in. And you start thinking maybe
really
this year's team might be a little snake bit, whereas last year's team, that would have never happened to last year's team.
And also, what is with sons of the head coaches just killing the Aztecs? You got Buddy Boeheim years ago. You got this guy killing the Aztecs.
Yeah, Buddy Boeheim killed him many years ago.
Where's Brian Dutcher? Does he have a son coming up through the system so he can go kill other teams?
Does he have a son coming up through the system? I don't think he does, but anyway, look, I love these kids. I love the Aztecs. I'm going to be there every step of the way, but it's certainly been much tougher, to watch what's happened to them this year and see all of these games that have been so close and just, not be able to really win any of them. And now, they're in a position where, to repeat as Mountain West Conference champions, they've got a gauntlet to get through starting Thursday here in Las Vegas. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back to baseball we go. Scott Miller will join us. It's always fun to have Scott on the program, get some of his thoughts on the spring training Padres and what he expects for 2024. That is coming up next on Gwynn and Chris. Back on the program, Chris Ello, Matt Skraby together today. Chris Ello I'm in Las Vegas, and Aztec basketball this week, Mountain West Conference Tournament. Matt Skraby at the Odyssey Palace Studios in San Diego. I can actually see the Thomas and Mack Arena from my window in my hotel. I don't think
How's
that
it
means
look?
anything to anybody out there. It looks like just a building.
Didn't you go to the
A
Sphere?
roof on it. I did. I went to the Sphere on, Saturday night. It was kind of fun. I went with Ben Pearson, the Aztecs media relations guy. We saw a show in the Sphere. I'm glad I got to go. It's pretty cool. It's definitely something everybody should experience one time.
What show did you have?
Well, we saw, it wasn't it's called Postcards from the Edge, or from Earth. Postcards from Earth. And it's a beautiful vistas of the Earth, and it's presented inside of that planetarium-like setting of the Sphere. The screen opens up, and anyway, I'm not good at describing this stuff. Just telling you all should check it out one time in your life. If you come to Las Vegas, go to the Sphere. I know Skraby's getting Scott Miller on the program.
He is ready
He's
to
going to join us
go.
to talk some baseball. He is ready to go. Well, let's bring him on the show then.
Yes.
Scott Miller, how are you, sir? Always great to talk to you and catch up with you, especially at this time of year.
Great time of year. Spring training, baseball. I mean, summer's about here. NCAA basketball tournament about to start. It is so much going on. So welcome at this time of year.
It's awesome. And don't leave out NFL free agency, Scott, which is actually dominating the headlines today. Let me ask you about
when the NFL yawns, it dominates
headlines. See, Scott and I are on the same page with this. You're absolutely right, Scott. Well, let me ask you this, Scott Miller. Are you ready for the Graham Pauley and Jackson Merrill eras to begin with the San Diego Padres? I think it's looking pretty clear for sure that Jackson Merrill's going to be starting on opening day, and Graham Pauley's starting to get more and more playing time at third base as we get closer. I mean, are these young guys? We'll find out if they're ready. But I guess the question is, can young guys really make an impact this early in their careers?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, that's part of the fun of a new season to me. Sometimes when you roll out some of the young guys that have this opportunity in front of them, and that it'll be interesting to watch and see how they respond and what they do. And I mean, you think back to a couple different years with the Padres. Last year everybody was hyped out of their mind, but it wasn't because of the young guys. It was because of Juan Soto, Machado, all the superstars already on board. And we saw how that worked out. I mean, a year ago at this time, it was almost like guaranteed roll into the playoffs, and how deep do they play? But baseball doesn't work that way. And, sometimes, you go back with the Padres a couple of years back to another young guy they were breaking in when he made the opening day roster, Fernando Tatis Jr. And nobody knew how that would play out. And boy, he hit the ground running and gave us all kinds of excitement. Now, I think he's probably a generational player. I don't think it'd be fair to, Jackson Merrill or especially Paulie to expect him to be anywhere near Tatis's rookie year level. But coming off of last year's colossal disappointment, I think bringing in some young guys, with some, fresh looks could be, probably is going to be a good thing. I mean, everybody's raving about Jackson Merrill. I love the stat, assuming he starts opening day in center field. Since 1900, there's only been 2 starting center fielders under the age of, 21? One was Ken Griffey Jr., one was Andrew Jones of the Atlanta Braves. That's pretty doggone good company for Jackson Merrill to step into.
That is great company for Jackson Merrill to step into. We're talking to Scott Miller here on 97.3 The Fan. And Is there I don't know if this has changed, but I remember when Fernando was coming into like, when he had a chance to make the opening day roster and make his debut, it was a talk about service time. Do the Padres want to start his clock? It doesn't seem like that's as much of a concern. Is that because it's not really a thing anymore, or are teams just looking past it now?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. It's a little bit of what you just said. It's not quite as much of a thing anymore. Teams are looking a little past it now, and I mean, let's face it. Part of what the Padres have going right now is a numbers game, right? I mean, not trading Soto, trading Trent Grisham. I mean, they didn't have enough outfielders going into spring training to fill out a doggone three-man outfield. It didn't seem like they had to sign Jerkson Profar after camp started, and then they just had a whole lot of young guys. So it's part of the budget cutting. Where they traded Soto and Grisham, and they weren't going to go out and add a lot of free agents unless it was out of desperation. And then it was going to be, the lower tier, cheaper free agents. They certainly weren't going to, replace a Juan Soto with somebody, with a high Q rating like Soto had. So, part of it is, the service time isn't quite looked at since the last collective bargaining agreement as what it used to be. And I think teams recognize now that there's so much good young talent, from like in Baltimore, Adley Rutschman, guys like that, the kid playing shortstop in St. Louis this spring, Mason Wynn, that, teams are less afraid to start the young guys earlier in their career because, they're coming in more major league ready than they used to based on a whole lot of things, improved training techniques, travel ball from the time they're 10 or 11, great coaching across the board. So, I think teams are less scared of young guys. Young guys play big more quickly than they used to. And, like you say in the Padres case, I mean, what you're going to lose in the service time battle, you're going to make up for it, but not, by lowering your because you're not having to pay, exorbitant prices for the Juan Sotos to do.
Scott Miller is with us, and Scott, I think you're 100% right. I mean, young guys are contributing in ways that they never did before,
Yep.
and practically all over baseball, we're seeing examples of this. I want to ask you about the Padre fans and whether or not some of them, many of them, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but those who feel like the Padres have let them down a little bit by lowering their payroll so drastically a year after they made it what it was, they've raised some ticket prices, etc. My point to them is that it would have been bad business to go over the luxury tax a third year in a row. It just cost too much money. It would have been irresponsible. And that they really have had no choice but to cut back on spending this year. And the fact of the matter is, they still have a contending payroll. And just because this year's isn't last year's doesn't mean it's fair to be upset with them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you laid it out pretty well. I would add, look, everybody was shocked at the payroll last year. I mean, you had the only teams outspending the Padres were the Mets and the Yankees. I mean, the two New York teams. And I think for local fans, I love the way the Padres now are an everyday part of so many people's lives. You only have to think back to the broken trust at the end of the John Moores era, and then the disaster when Jeff Moore theoretically on the team. I mean, the fans were turned off. The Padres were kind of ignored. You only have to compare it now to then. I mean, the Padres are relevant again. This ownership has made them relevant. You credit, the late Peter Seidler and Ron Fowler, and who stepped aside now, and the Padres management for spending the money they did. I mean, I think last year was stunning, and I think for fans to expect last year's payroll that the Padres would continue to be like the third or fourth highest payroll in the game, I think that's unrealistic, totally unrealistic expectations. I think you can't sit here as a fan and expect the way the economics of the game are, a team in this market to spend like they did last year. I think the fact that what they spent the last 2 years, instead of fans being angry this year, they should, be thankful and credit the Padres for what they've done the last couple of years. They weren't going to be able to just keep spending money nonstop, uninhibited, forever. Also, I think fans need to remember what they got from last year's team, which was a fall on its face. They didn't even make the playoffs. I think that factors into it because, there was all kinds of money, October money, playoff ticket sales, and that kind of thing that I'm sure the Padres counted on. It never showed up because they didn't make the playoffs. So last year, as much as they spent, it was, and as well as they drew, and with all those sellouts, it still wasn't going to be the financial windfall they thought maybe it would be if they didn't make the playoffs. So I think they had to adjust, recalibrate a little bit. And the other thing I would add to this umbrella is, longtime fans, think back to when Tom Warner came in as owner in the early 90s, and they had that fire sale. I mean, they traded away Fred McGriff and Roberto Alomar, Hall of Famers and All-Stars. And that's not anywhere close to what's happening now. It's a really interesting team to watch this year with, Machado. You got superstars across the game like Manny Machado and Paul and Tatis Jr. You Darvish, Musgrove. I mean, you still got a lot of talent on this team. And back to where we started, if the Jackson Merrills of the world come in and play, this, I'm not going to predict this, but this year's team could end up being better than last year's just because they traded Juan Soto and cut payroll. It was not a fire sale situation. It's not like they offloaded all their talent.
Yeah, we're talking to Scott Miller here on 97.3 The Fan, Gwynn and Chris. And we were, I think that Juan Soto, we've been talking about this for a while, but Juan Soto, I don't know your thoughts. The Padres got so much pitching, and now that Garrett Cole might have an elbow injury and all this other stuff, do you think that at some point the Yankees are going to regret trading all of their pitching away, or at least a lot of their pitching away?
They might, because you cannot take pitching. I mean, I don't care what the new, whatever analytics you point to, you can look break the game down however you want. One base slugging percentage, velocity. If you don't pitch, bottom line, if you don't pitch, you don't win. That's still how you win in this game. So, the Yankees are going to be a very interesting case study. And I'll tell you what. The other thing is, if Garrett Cole, at that MRI, depending on what that shows next few days, if he ends up, on the injured list, or if it's significant, I could see all of a sudden the market for the Yankees might increase that market to Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, the two best free agent pitchers that still are out there on the free agent market. If I'm Scott Forrest today with those two as clients, I'm watching Garrett Cole and I'm talking. I'm sure there's already been communication with the Yankees because you're right. I don't know if the Yankees, if they lose him after making the trades they did and trading the pitching to San Diego for Soto, they may end up needing to go right back into the free agent market. And I thought the trade was a good gamble for the Yankees, but I'm not as high on Juan Soto as a lot of people. I thought he was. I know his numbers ended up good at the end of the year last year, but I thought he was a bust. I've never seen. I just guys with that kind of talent with a bat swing the bat. I've never seen an alleged superstar so desperate just to walk every time at the plate. And he didn't. I mean, I could go on. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I was thrilled, to be honest with you. I think Juan Soto is one of the biggest reasons they underachieved last year.
Scott Miller, music to my ears. I've been singing this Juan Soto thing by myself for 6 months now. It's nice to have a little support. And I was going to say, if you talk to the Yankees, tell them We're not taking Juan Soto back. They're stuck with him.
Right.
Hey, Scott, real quick, I got like 2 minutes left. Give me a quick look at the West. Is it that cut and dry Dodgers? And just a quick thought on Arizona and the Giants and where they might be in relation to the Padres.
Yeah, well, I think it does seem cut and dry that the Dodgers ought to lap the field and win the division. But again, baseball, you just never know for sure. Things change rapidly. I would, there's no doubt that the Dodgers are the favorites to win. But, Diamondbacks have so much good young talent. I mean, we saw what they did getting to the World Series last year. Corbin Carroll was one of the great young players in the game. Back to the we're just talking about Jeff and Merrill. Well, Corbin Carroll and the rookie catcher Gabriel Moreno in Arizona, what those two did last year as young players, helping the D-backs get to the World Series. I like their addition of third baseman Eugenio Suarez, who they acquired from Seattle in a trade last November. I like the signing of free agent Eduardo Rodriguez, who pitched in Detroit the last couple of years. He slots in right behind Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. Diamondbacks, they're not going to be a pushover. I mean, they're for real, and I think that they. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to, run down the Dodgers for first place. But I kind of look at them. What about like last year when, the Padres had such high expectations going into the year, and a lot of people thought, well, the Dodgers probably still win the division. Padres could win it if everything goes right, but otherwise, the Padres team last year was almost a lock for a wild card spot. Turned out not to happen, but the Diamondbacks are, to me, almost kind of like in the Padres spot from the thing goes right. If not, they ought to still do pretty well and go to the playoffs. Giants, the change in management, in manager with Bob Melvin, our old guy here in San Diego running the Giants, that'll be very interesting because things went south with Gabe Kapler last year and with all the analytic moves of Farhan Zaidi. I don't think the Giants have enough to win, but the addition of third baseman Matt Chapman is really going to help. He's got a great glove and bat. Jorge Soler is going to give them some thump in the outfield and designated hitter. I don't know. Center field, like the Padres, they have a new center field, Young Hoo Lee, who played in the KBO last year. A lot of questions around him. We'll see what he can do on an everyday basis. Right now, he's probably going to play center field and lead off for the Giants. So they'll be an interesting team. I think probably talent-wise, they're behind the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, but we'll see.
Scott, we love it. We love talking baseball with you as always, and look forward to seeing you out at the ballpark. Thanks for everything. Have a great rest of your March, my friend.
You too. Enjoy it all.
All right, Scott Miller there. We'll take a quick timeout here. Come back. Daily Gambit is next up on Gwynn and Chris.
San Diego to Tijuana, bus leaving in 3 minutes.
Hey, how are you, babe?
Hi, I'm good, but I wish you were here in Tijuana.
I know. I wish you were here in San Diego. Hey, I just sent you a song.
hosts, Tony Gwynn Jr.
How about Hungary?
Tony needs one for the title.
Hungary?
Hungary?
Did you say Hungary?
He said Hungary.
He's not allowed to win if he calls it Hungary.
And Chris Ello.
And as soon as the white smoke comes out the chimney, they've got a new pope.
What's
and
a
everybody
chimney?
celebrates. It's a chimney. It's my version of a chimney.
It's time to get you up to speed on all things sports. Yes! With plenty of nonsense in between.
Oh, look! Here comes our fearless producer!
Gwynn and Chris starts right now on 97.3 The Fan.
And for now, it is just me, Skraby. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here today. As Chris said a little bit earlier, it's going to be one of those days. Chris is out in Vegas calling the Aztecs women's. They are in their second game of the Aztecs women's basketball tournament. So if they win, they move on. If they lose, Chris will be headed home. And Tony is calling the Padres game right now that is happening against the Mariners in Peoria. So if you are looking for those two guys, you're going to have to wait a little bit for Tony. And we're going to actually see if Tony can get on the show and all that stuff, depending on how long the game goes, all that stuff. But Chris is going to be here interspersed throughout. I don't know if that's the actual word, interspersed, but I'm going to use it right here. And we will have a daily Gambit. Chris and I did go over the bets that we made last weekend and also talked about some bets for tonight. But interesting chat going on right here on YouTube, the YouTube chat. If you want to join us, just search 97.3 The Fan in YouTube. And I want to ask everyone why the simple mentioning of Bob Melvin sends everybody into a tizzy. Because for me, I really don't think it means it. I really don't think it makes a difference anymore, to be honest. It doesn't matter. We've moved on. Everybody's in their new places. And I'm not saying that you can't have, you can't be upset about it. I'm not saying that you can't, have your opinions about Bob Melvin. That's fine. But there's no reason to argue about it. And I'm not saying people are arguing in the chat. It's just every time something is mentioned about Bob Melvin, I feel like the frustration level goes up a little bit. And it was, I don't know that every single conspiracy theory that is out there about Bob Melvin, I don't know that, I can't say any of them are true, but I don't know that a lot of them are true. By the way, excuse me, if you want to hear some conspiracy talk tonight on the Skraby Show around 6:40 or so, I'm going to be getting into this Kate Middleton craziness. It is actually crazy. I don't like the Royals. I don't talk about the Royals, but it is actually crazy. But anyway, Bob Melvin, he, there were things said about him. There were things said about others. And it's just one of those things we'll probably never find out the actual reasons and actual things that were happening behind closed doors. So I'm a Bo Mel fan, huh, Skraby? No, never said that. I did like Bob Melvin. I thought he had a good temperament. Maybe it wasn't right for the team, but people could still be Bob Melvin fans. I'm just saying that it goes from 0 to 60. That is what I'm saying, is that it is happening when you mention Bob Melvin. It's either he's kind of polarizing here in San Diego. Chance said he let our pitchers hang themselves. See, I don't think that's the truth. You don't know all the, and this is not me saying I'm a Bob Melvin, defender or anything, but my mind, when I see a statement like that, immediately goes to, well, how do you know that Josh Hader couldn't come out of the bullpen because he didn't want to? How do you know that it wasn't Josh Hader hanging out his teammates in the game? How do you know that they didn't just have anybody ready? That's my first thought whenever I hear about decisions that are made in game. There's so many things that we don't know. And I do sound like I'm coming off as a big old Bo Mel supporter right now, but I didn't mean to when I set out talking about this. All right. With all that said, with my Bo Mel love behind us, we now have some Daily Gambit.
Do you like money?
I think about money a lot.
Do you like money without doing anything?
Winning.
Do you want to make money while watching sports?
I think Washington is immortal luck.
Washington! Woohoo!
If you answered yes, this is your segment. Just don't blame us when you lose.
Nothing is ever your fault.
It's your game.
Gwynn and Chris go through the top bets of the day in the Daily Gambit on 97.3 The Fan.
Daily Gambit, our daily sports betting segment here on Gwynn and Chris. Please, everybody, gamble responsibly. Chris is out in Las Vegas right now, as we know, and hopefully,
and that's where everybody gambles responsibly. Yes,
everyone does.
Yes.
No one has issues with gambling.
No, none at all.
All right, that sounds good though. I'm excited for it. But we actually made. I don't know if you remember on Thursday, it was the day of the soccer tirade. I'm going to go back and call it. Yeah. We made some bets in the Premier League, the English Premier League.
I do remember that. I must tell you, I did not follow the games to see how I did.
I did follow the game. So here we go. Manchester United and Everton. These were all like money line type bets. Chris, you chose Everton and I chose Man U. Man U wins 2-0. So that one.
I took Everton because the owner of the team once gave me a jersey.
That's right.
I had no insight into that match at all.
I forgot about that. Next one, Bournemouth against Sheffield United. You said a draw, plus 450. I said Bournemouth, and it was a draw, Chris. That was a good one for you, plus 450. That was a good
the
win.
Final score? 1-1?
Oh, 2-2.
2-2.
Stop taking backhanded shots.
Scoring fest.
I almost said golf because I'm so used to defending golf. Now I have to defend soccer. Next one.
That's a big hit. Plus 450, man. That makes a lot of money.
It does. A draw right there. Yeah, that does make a lot of money.
All right.
Wolverhampton and Fulham. You said draw again. I said the Wolves, and Wolverhampton won 2-1. So I win that one.
You said the Wolves.
Yes, they are the Wolves. They are nicknamed the Wolves. Wolverhampton, you can call them the Wolves. I confirmed over the weekend.
Yes, you did.
Crystal Palace and Luton Town. We both chose Crystal Palace. We should have said draw because it was a 1-1 draw. Man,
I only got one right.
Yeah, that's not very good. I got 2 right, but still not very good. The other bets that we made on Friday, Boise State at the Aztecs. Aztecs were 7-point favorites in this one. Boise State, as we know, ended up winning 79-77 in overtime. So, Chris, you win the bet. I lose the bet, but we already talked a little bit about that.
It's a heartbreaker again for the Aztecs who've started to lose all of their close games.
Not a fan.
They used to win close games.
Yeah.
But now they're in a streak where, what do they say? Water is finding its level. You know, I love to say that.
I didn't know this was going to be such a theme to the show, but I invite it. USD and Pepperdine in the West Coast Conference Tournament. Chris, you chose USD. Pepperdine with 3.5-point favorites. I chose Pepperdine, saying they're going to do it for their coach, but USD ended up winning 57-52, so good for them. UCLA and USC women's basketball. UCLA 5.5-point favorites. Both of us chose USC. Both of us were correct. 80-70, USC won.
And USC went on to beat Stanford in the championship game.
So they're the Pac-12 or what? Are they still Pac-12?
The final Pac-12 champions, USC.
Ooh, trivia question.
Side. Yeah, there you go.
Milwaukee Bucks were 3-point favorites over the Clippers on Friday. Both of us chose the Milwaukee Bucks, and they did win 124-117. Finally, yesterday, Aztecs women's basketball played San Jose State. Minus 10.5 was the spread for the Aztecs women's. You chose the Aztecs, Chris. I chose San Jose State, and they won by 21 points, the Aztecs women, 72-51.
Yeah, they dominated that game. You never had a chance. The Aztecs were up by 13 in the first quarter and never looked back.
So much for San Jose State playing the Aztecs tough. Anyway.
Yeah, they played them tough during the regular season, but I think I went 5-0. I hate to say it. If you go back up and down the list there.
Let me see. You got.
I don't think I lost one.
Boise is correct. USC is correct. USC is correct. Wow. Good job. That's
5-0.
Here's one bet that I want to talk about.
I should go to Vegas. Oh, I am in Vegas.
Well, you should definitely be betting tonight. What are you talking about?
Really? I'm hot.
Real quick, before we get into your bets, because I know you have an Aztecs women's basketball line, but the Players Championship, the 5th major, as you know, Chris, is on Thursday. Starts on Thursday. Scotty Scheffler ran away with the Bay Hill Invitational yesterday, so he's on top, plus 500 for the winner. Rory McIlroy is second, plus 1,200. Here's what I find interesting. Xander Schauffele, I can't remember, is always high up on these lists to win plus 2,000. Also, Justin Thomas to win plus 2,000. Those are two guys I may put some money down on to win. Victor Hovland plus 2,500. I could see those are some good bets, but you are, again, as Chris always says, you're picking a needle out of a haystack when you're trying to pick a winner of a golf tournament.
You know, I really want to love Xander Schauffele. I mean, he's an Aztec, San Diego, the whole thing. But this guy, I mean, he's like a tease, Skraby. I mean, I hate to say it, but he's always highly ranked. He's always, one of the favorites to win, and he's always in contention.
Mm-hmm. He is.
But on Sunday, at the end of the day, he's never picking up the trophy.
That is true. He finished 25th yesterday.
That's the problem with Xander. He always gives you a run for your money, but he never wins you your money. That's my thing with him. He's got to break through.
He does.
This guy's got to break through. I mean, Scheffler was like Xander for a while.
Yeah.
Now Scheffler's he would win.
Well, that's what they're saying about him. If he wins the big, he's already won the Olympics. So if he wins the big,
Xander won that one?
Oh, he didn't win it, but he also, or did he win it? I think he may have won the
gold
medal.
He might have won the gold medal, but on the tour, unfortunately, more times than not, Xander comes up short.
Yeah.
He's a highly ranked player. You don't get good odds with him. He's always in the lead at the end of the first round. And by Sunday, he's trying to dig himself out of a trap somewhere.
Literally.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you got?
All right. I got, let's start with the Aztec women tonight. They got the quarterfinals of the Mountain West tournament. They're playing New Mexico. New Mexico's the 2 seed. The Aztecs are a 7 seed, but we already discussed this last week. The Aztecs actually tied for 4th, but because of tiebreakers, they ended up with a 7 seed. This is the 4th time in the last 5 years that these teams have met in the quarterfinals. Last year in the quarterfinals, the Aztecs beat New Mexico by 1 point. These teams always seem to play close games. New Mexico is favored by 4 tonight in the quarterfinal over the Aztecs. I can tell you, Skraby, if the Aztec women play anything like they played last night against San Jose, they will win this game outright. So I will take the Aztecs. I hope they play as well. They really looked good last night, but New Mexico's a different animal. New Mexico's awfully good.
You know what, Chris? I think that you lit a fire. You got them to want to get into the women's tournament so that they could play Iowa or something like that, or LSU. Yeah, right. So I'm going to say Aztecs.
All right.
There you go.
Well, they need 3 more to get all the way to the NCAA tournament, but we'll see if they can get this one tonight. All right, on the men's side, we got the West Coast Conference semifinals. They're here in Las Vegas. First game up is St. Mary's, 11.5 over Santa Clara. St. Mary's had a long winning streak. They've been unbelievably good ever since the Aztecs beat them back in December. But Santa Clara, their men's team is staying in our hotel here in Las Vegas.
Is that right?
Yeah. In fact, our breakfast meeting room is right next to their breakfast meeting room.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of into Santa Clara. I'm going to take them since they're in my hotel.
And they're
plus the 11.5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take plus the 11.5 too, because that's a lot for a semifinal game.
Yeah, but St. Mary's has been blowing everybody out.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Here, what's up next, baby?
The other one is Zaga against the San Francisco Dons, otherwise known as USF. And the Zags are a 9.5-point favorite over your Dons.
I'll go first.
I know you're going to take the Dons, but
here's my explanation.
What do you got?
They've played Gonzaga now. This will be their 3rd time playing Gonzaga this year. Gonzaga is on a down year. The Dons have had a pretty strong year outside of a few eek losses. I think they're going to win this because they know their way into the tournament is by winning the West Coast Conference tournament. I think they got it in the 3rd and not rubber match, but they're going to take the 3rd game against the Zags.
All right, I'm going to take Gonzaga because number one, you're correct. Gonzaga's had a down year, but Gonzaga has had a hot month of March and late February. They blew out St. Mary's to end their winning streak a couple of weeks ago. Gonzaga lives for this time of year, and they're not in the tournament themselves without a good showing in this West Coast Conference. So Gonzaga has a lot to play for. They're starting to put it together at the right time. I'll take Gonzaga.
Doesn't help that I went back to their last game that they played, and it was at home, and they got blown out 86-68 by Gonzaga. When they were playing up in Washington, it was a 5-point game. Gonzaga wins.
The first game, yeah. San Francisco was to me, San Francisco is about as good now as they were then. But Gonzaga, to me, is a lot better now than they were then.
I'm not going to be mad at that. Not going to be mad at that.
See what happens. See what happens. Denver Nuggets 15.5 over Toronto in Denver tonight.
Whoa, what's happened to Toronto?
Toronto's fallen completely apart. They traded some of their good players at the trade deadline. They're rebuilding. Denver's running away with everything. I'll take Denver.
Okay.
Even though that's a lot of points for an NBA game.
I am going to go the other way.
You're going to take all those points.
Yeah. I'm going to go what you think, the opposite of what I usually do.
Yeah, that you're being a George now. You're going the opposite. George Costanza.
Basically, every time you mention something, I am kind of George Costanza. I've realized it.
Yeah, you really are. And that's not a terrible thing. George is very well loved.
Yes, but he's also annoyed and hated too.
He's also neurotic as hell, and that is that's where you crawl into the category with him.
Yes.
Phoenix -6.5 at Cleveland. Suns on the road. I don't know what happened to Cleveland. I guess Donovan Mitchell got hurt, and they've been struggling a little bit. But Phoenix is going to go on the road and still giving 6.5 points here. Scrape. What about you?
I'm going to go Phoenix.
You're going to give the points this time.
Yes.
Okay. Home underdogs. It's the oldest trick in the book when it comes to sports betting. Bet home underdogs. So I'll go with the oldest trick in the book. I'll take Cleveland plus a 6.5.
All right. Is that it?
That's our daily gambit.
All
for
right.
today,
Nice job, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris,
I just want everybody to know I'm so committed to this segment. I actually flew to Las Vegas just for this segment.
It's very strong. Very strong. Thank you very much for doing that.
My pleasure.
When we get back, Chris is going to be doing that shuffling thing that Tony does from time to time, and we are going to talk about some of the biggest free agency news in the NFL. It's been crazy, so we'll catch you up on the latest here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Couple of
He's not the devil.
My computer is still logging in.
All right.
It's taking for freaking ever. And I've got to be up. Okay. And settings.
To explore new and traditional Asian cuisines.
Settings.
Audio.
Audio.
Scratch-made dishes come from the 2,000-year-old tradition of wok cooking. PF Chang's
Mic. We do not want from the mic. We want SA.
Back here in the Odyssey Palace on 97.3 The Fan, Matt Skraby. Going to be weaving my way in and out of recorded segments with Chris Ello, so never fear. We have some brand new sports talk for you as we keep going throughout the show. And if you are a YouTube viewer, you just were treated to something special in the break. I did not know how to use my computer, and I ended up unmuting myself so everybody could hear me say something. I don't even remember what I said. I don't think I'm going to get fired for it. But if you are a YouTube person, or if you want to go watch on YouTube, you should go search 97.3 The Fan. You never, ever know what's going to happen when the mics are on, or off. I mean, off. That's actually maybe my worst nightmare of all time, is to be caught on a hot mic saying something that's going to get me fired. That's why I'm really careful about what I say in studio. Apparently I was talking about the devil. That's not outside the realm of possibility for me, but Chance says I was talking bleep about him. Maybe I was, Chance. Maybe I was. You never know. You're the biggest Bowmel defender out there. Haha. He's not going to like that. All right. So we have Padres Pen Pals coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. Chris and I went through and answered some questions from some of the fans out there. But right now, we are going to quickly update you on what's going on with the NFL free agency. And it's been fast and furious today. It has been insanity today. And here's why. Kirk Cousins who just came into the room with me, Adam Klug's Atlanta Falcons. Now, the contract is worth $180 million over 4 years. Adam, what? So I texted you. I said, Kirk Cousins, ? And you said yes, like you were excited. Tell me why you're excited about Kirk Cousins as your quarterback.
I mean, I come in here and we're talking Falcons football. I mean, come on.
Yes, we are talking Falcons football. It's just
Padres
for you.
Roster moves. Blake Snell's got eyeball emojis, and this is what people want to hear about Kirk Cousins and the Falcons.
I do, because I have you in the room right here, and you are a Falcons fan. So quickly, give me your thoughts. Why are you okay with this?
I mean, Kirk Cousins has played like basically a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. He tore his Achilles week 8 of last year. As long as he's healthy, he's the best quarterback the Falcons have had in a long, long time.
Oh man, Matt Ryan? Is that the last guy?
Yeah, that's the last guy. He was 3 years ago, and towards the end, he wasn't that good. So, I mean, they've kind of wandered through the wilderness the last few years with Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. So, this is good news.
Good point.
If he's healthy.
If he's healthy. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. I think it's a good move for the Falcons. I think he can throw the ball. Maybe Kyle Pitts will finally show something for once in his career that he can, or at least maybe they'll finally throw the ball to him for once in his career.
Yeah, you and I have commiserated over Kyle Pitts' fantasy football disappointment for the last couple of years.
Just so much disappointment. The Eagles, on the other hand, they have found a new running back because DeAndre Swift is going to the Bears. So he will be with the, I almost said National League Central, but the NFC Central. And Saquon Barkley, former Giant, in-season rival, signs with the Eagles for a 3-year deal worth $37.75 million. He can earn up to $46.75 million. This is a really dangerous signing, I think, for the Eagles. Dangerous as in they're going to be dangerous, because I feel like Saquon Barkley just needed to be out in a place where he was maybe joined by some guys who can actually play at the NFL level. So I think this is awesome for Saquon and for the Eagles, I hate to say. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The Raiders are signing Christian Wilkins away from the Miami Dolphins. The 4-year deal is worth up to $110 million with reportedly $84 million guaranteed, which is insane. So the Dolphins get weaker. Packers, they add Josh Jacobs to their backfield, which is kind of interesting because Aaron Jones is still there on a big contract, but
they're releasing Aaron Jones.
They are.
Yes.
I did not know that they were releasing it. Well, that makes more sense than anything. 4-year deal worth $48 million. AJ, I was just assuming that AJ Dillon was going to be gone. And so AJ Dillon's been the guy who's kind of like the change of pace back for the Packers the last couple of years, but he's kind of struggled. Colts agree to a deal with Michael Pittman Jr. He's going to be a rich man, 3 years, $71.5 million, blah, 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 blah. That's basically the biggest ones of the day. So we will keep an eye on this, and keep in mind, Chris, Braden, and I are scheduled. It could change, but scheduled to be doing a first round draft show here on the station. So make sure you keep an ear out for that. I forgot where Gardner Minshew's going. Tony Pollard's also going to the Titans.
Minshew to the Raiders.
Minshew to the Raiders. I don't know that that's going to help you much, but sure. Gardner Minshew is a great quarterback once your starter gets hurt. He's a great fill-in quarterback for the rest of the season. So there you go. Adam mentioned the Blake Snell eyeball post from over the weekend. And so maybe this is good that Adam's in here, because I think I understand what happened, but I don't necessarily think I understand the full thing. So he put up these eyeball emojis on his Instagram, right? His Instagram story, and they were brown and gold, the eye colors. Is that correct, Adam? Is that what I'm gathering from this whole thing?
That's correct. And both you and I are both Android users.
We are.
And so I learned something new over the weekend about what you're about to explain in regards to this.
Well, then, of course, because anything that's put on social media that has anything to do with the team's colors, people go crazy for. And so there were people like, wow, this means, look, Blake Snell's re-signing with the Padres, or is heading back to San Diego. He's got one brown eye. He's got a gold eye. It's Padres colors. He chose those for a reason. And you know what? We found out, someone replied to that tweet on 97.3 The Fan and said, iPhones always have the color brown and gold in the eyes. And so it means nothing really towards the Padres. It's just a generic emoji that he threw up. But I can't say, I think he's getting close to signing somewhere. And as Scott Miller said, and we talked about briefly, Garrett Cole, if he's out for long term, I think that they're going to bring they're going to bring Blake Snell back in. I don't see any way around it for the Yankees.
I know that Padres fans got excited over the weekend because of the brown and gold, but I think they have to get Blake Snell out of their heads right now, right? Because of the CBT, and regardless of if they have money left to spend or not, he's not signing a deal for less than the AAV of, let's say, $25 million minimum. And that's not going to fit into the Padres budget. So,
yeah. Diego Drip says, bro, what are you talking about? That's a stretch. I didn't do any stretching on this whole thing. This was put together by the fine Padres fans out there and listeners to the 97.3 The Fan station. They were the ones who came to that conclusion. It was not Adam nor I, Mr. Diego Drip. Chances iPhone eyes are black and white. I mean, I don't have an iPhone. So what am I going to do? I can't check it, and I don't care to check it because iPhone hates Android, but that's not what we're doing here. We are about to head into Padres Pen Pals is what we're doing. And during Padres Pen Pals, we talked about a few weeks ago, there was someone who wrote in asking for advice on a sober game, going to a sober Padres game. And so someone else messaged me and asked us a question about that. Also, someone asked, is the lefty righty thing really that big of a deal? Like, is pitching and hitting, is that matchup and combination, is that really a big deal? Also, the schedule of spring training came up in Padres Pen Pals. So we'll have all of that. Chris is going to be back answering questions that you asked us here on 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods.
If you love Mediterranean food, ooh, I love this. Ah! Sorry, everybody in the camera didn't get to see that because it's not back to break yet. But if you love Mediterranean food, try Spiro's for authentic Mediterranean cuisine in Coronado or La Jolla. For dining or takeout options, visit spiroscuisine.com. Now, I just saw a tweet on MLB Network that the Garrett Cole for the Yankees, his prognosis is unknown at the moment, and they're not going to figure it out until, he's scheduled to have an MRI. So his season, and if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm very nervous about Garrett Cole. He was awesome last year. He won the Cy Young. He made every one of his starts. So I'm a little surprised to see that Garrett Cole is doing this in spring training because of he's just a horse, as they call some starting pitchers out there. He's just a guy who takes the ball and just goes. So it's got to be for the Yankees themselves. Brian Cashman's got to be a little scared about everything. So innings leader since the start of 2017, Garrett Cole has pitched the most innings in baseball, 1,279 over Aaron Nola. So that's some crazy stuff right there. And I don't even know if I should say it, but I'm going to knock on all the wood. Things in spring training are so much better for the Padres this year than they were last year. Just absolutely 100% so much better. We were talking about kettlebells last year. No one wants to talk about kettlebells this year, and we're not going to talk about kettlebells this year. Jocelyn just said, "Ha! I just got a selfie with Tony in the booth." That is awesome. Jocelyn asked earlier if it would be too much for me to message Tony and have him hang out of the booth so that she could take a selfie with him. And I didn't get to do that. So I'm glad that you got your picture, Jocelyn. That's good stuff. Chance says Lucas Giolito undergoing right elbow surgery, ending his first year with the Red Sox. We kind of touched on that last week. Diego Drip also has an eyeball that he sent over here because if you missed the last segment, Blake Snell Instagrammed out some eyeball emoji and it got all the Padres fans all ready to go. But Lucas Giolito. That is someone that the Padres were in on. And you got to think maybe it's a good thing that the Padres weren't able to spend a bunch of money this offseason because they would possibly maybe get a guy like Lucas Giolito. And I'm not saying that he's a bad pitcher. I'm not saying that he's a great pitcher, but he's not going to pitch for the rest of the season. And so that could have been a Padres problem to worry about. And it's not. Padres are, the more I'm hearing from spring training about the pitching and about some of the guys they got back in that Juan Soto trade, I really think the Padres put themselves in a good spot. And again, we have to see what happens during the season because I am told every single day that spring training does not matter. But I am excited to see what these guys can do. I mean, Drew Thorpe is pitching tomorrow. And if he hasn't been put or reassigned to minor league camps yet, I got to think that there's some possibility that he's going to open the season on the opening day roster, or at least be part of that taxi squad. And I guess it's more of a jet squad because you can't take a taxi to Korea. But you could take 31 players, or you have 31 players that you could use while you're going overseas for this international game. And they're not exhibitions, they're actual games. So we'll talk about that more as we go along. All right, Padres Pen Pals was a good one. We have Chris. He is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about Jackson Merrill a little bit. We're going to talk about being at Padres games sober. It's not boring, I promise. But first, we need to check and make sure that you're going to get home with your traffic report.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Couple of problems along eastbound 8. One is this accident at Waring Road. Looks like that could be blocking lanes. We're showing a huge backup behind it. Then a collision in the East County. This one is near Greenfield. That is over to the right shoulder. In the North County, southbound 15 before the 56. Collision blocking the 2 left lanes. Emergency crews on scene. I'm Kelly Danick with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's time to ask the experts, Padres fans.
I was hoping maybe you can bring a little insight into it.
Write us, tweet us, Facebook us, send a carrier pigeon for Chris. He thinks they're cute. Padres Pen Pals begins.
Hurt the pelota big time.
Now, on 97.3 The Fan.
I'm going to keep saying this all day, Chris, but I just think that the closer we get to the season, the more excited I'm getting for baseball to begin. It always happens like this, I guess, but I'm very excited.
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner, which means that we're going to have a full season of Padres Pen Pals. All of your crazy things that you want to hear the guys answer. Well, today it's going to be me, but throughout the season, it will be Tony and Chris. But we're going to start with this one. And I just clicked the wrong one. I'm sorry. That's total Skraby right there. Here we go. There it is. There it is. Okay, finally.
A total Skraby.
Yeah, pulling a Skraby over here.
I think we've got to call the Webster's Dictionary and see if we can get that put in as a new word.
And it's just me.
Phrase.
It's just me with
total
my
Skraby.
Just me with my hand in my face, like the palm emoji. Face palm emoji.
Total Skraby.
So do you remember a few weeks ago we had someone write in asking if they they were going to the game for the first time and they were newly sober, and so they're asking for advice. Do you remember that by chance, Chris? All right. Well, someone messaged me about that, and they asked me if the Padres had any sober seating and whether or not I would like to sit in a sober seating section. So I quickly looked, and I don't see anything for Padres games, but I also want to make it clear, I don't really think there needs to be one. Maybe it's nice to have one, but my belief personally on everything, not just Padres games, you don't need to change what you do because I can't drink, but because that's all on me, really. Chris, would you enjoy a sober section?
Yeah, I'm old enough now, Skrabe. I think I would.
Really?
Yeah, I think I am. I'll be honest with you. I went to the Aztec men's game on Friday night against Boise State, and I ended up leaving at halftime, honestly, because the fans behind me were too rowdy.
What?
Yeah, they were. Well, part of it was I was in the Boise State section. That's where my ticket was.
Okay, well, that's a different
and these fans were making me so angry that I honestly wanted to turn around and say something. I never did. But yeah, I'm to the point now where I wouldn't mind sitting back and being able to relax and enjoy a baseball game without some idiot who's had 50 beers, screaming and yelling at the top of his lungs. So, but that's only just me sounding old. I get it.
I don't think so, though.
Well, I don't know, because you're going to a baseball game. I mean, you're not going to a library.
Yeah,
you should expect some noise. You should expect some people there having fun and, creating some crazy havoc. But I don't know if they had a sober section. I don't think it's the worst idea I've ever heard. I hate to say. I think if you would have asked me this 20 years ago, I would have said you were ridiculous. But I'm gonna stick with my answer.
See, I don't care that they don't have one, but if they do have one, I may go sit there because last couple times I've sat at games, I've had beer spilled on me, and I really don't want to seem like I'm coming off complaining because I'm not. But it would be nice to sit next to someone and instead of having beer breath, they have peanut breath or something.
It would be a nice change.
Yes. I said peanut, by the way. Just to
I know
make
you
sure. Did. Okay. All right. That is that. Now, our next one. I'm somewhat new to baseball and slowly learning the game. One thing people won't tell you, baseball has so much strategy in it that you never even really realize. One thing that I'm kind of worried about this year is the left-handed hitting the Padres have. Basically, Jake Cronenworth is the only one that can break up the top of the order, assuming you don't trust Jackson Merrill yet in that spot. But then I thought Manny and Fernando are exceptional right-handed hitters, so maybe that cancels out the lefty-righty thing. Chris, how big of a deal in your mind is the lefty-righty thing when hitting?
I think it's a medium deal. I don't think it's not the biggest deal in the world because as the question points out, if you've got Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado, two great right-handed hitters, what do you want to do? Replace them with a left-handed hitter who's not as good?
Good point.
If you have 9 Manny Ramirez or 9, guys like Fernando Machado and they're all right-handed, so what? Put them up.
Yeah.
But it's nice to mix things up. And I can tell you, in this day and age of specialized pitching, a great left-handed reliever especially can come into a ball game in the 6th or 7th inning And if he's facing 6 straight left-handed hitters, he might get them all out. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And so that's the problem that you have. It's not so much the start of the game, the starting pitchers. I think starting pitchers in general they're pretty equal against both sides. They're a little better against righties are better against righties. Lefties are better against lefties. But it's when you get to the bullpen at the end of the game, you want to have that matchup in your favor as a hitter. And in your favor would be to have a right-hander facing a left-handed pitcher, et cetera. And the rules are such now that pitchers have to face 3 hitters when they come into a game, right?
Yep.
So if you have 3 straight right-handed hitters, I can bring a right-handed reliever in and he can face all 3. Whereas if you have righty, lefty, righty, now he's got to face a lefty in the middle of that. So I get why teams are trying to, organize their lineups with a mixture of righties and lefties. It makes sense. But I still think it's a medium deal because I'd rather have a great right-handed hitter than a good left-handed hitter.
You know what? You stole all my thunder, but what did you say?
I'm sorry.
Did you? No, it's okay. I knew you were going to explain it much better than I would. But did you say that there's anything like physics tells us that the ball goes a different way versus lefty and righty? Did you say that?
I don't know. I didn't.
Okay, good. Then I can add something to this conversation, Chris. That's all I got, though. Physics. When you're a lefty, it goes that way. When you're a righty, it goes that way.
What are you talking about?
The pitch. Like breaking pitches.
Breaking pitches break away from a left-handed batter if you're a left-handed pitcher.
I'm just going to move on because I'm confusing myself. So we're just going to
You're confusing the whole situation.
Yes, we're just going to go to the next one as quickly as possible. And that one, the lefty-righty thing, I understand the strategy, but I am so confused on where the ball goes anyway. Again, I'm just going to move on. I'm a huge baseball nerd and love watching different broadcasts throughout the week. And yes, I even watch them during spring training. My question doesn't really necessarily have to do with the Padres, but it has to do with spring training and how it's run. The broadcaster I was watching said his least favorite part of spring training is all the early morning scrums. Basically, he said when most of your games are played primarily at night, why do all the early morning stuff why do all the early morning stuff? Chris, do you think that actually matters? Or actually, it's me. I'll say it. Do you think that actually matters? Knowing baseball players, they're not morning creatures. And every time we've gone to spring training, all the baseball players say how they hate waking up early to do all their stuff. So it is a little strange. I got to say, it's a strange thing that they completely shift their schedule for the regular season right after they're done with spring training. Do I think it matters in the long run? No, but it is a little weird to me. What do you think, Chris?
I think this question's bringing up a reasonable point, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I mean, Major League Baseball players are totally creatures of habit. There's absolutely no question about that. They get used to a routine and a schedule, and their routine and schedule usually means they don't really begin their workday till about 2:00 in the afternoon. They get to the ballpark and they, get ready for a ball game, take some hitting practice, and their game goes until 11 o'clock at night, or they get home at 11:30 or 12 o'clock. All of a sudden, in the month of March, their day goes from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. instead of from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So I think there is a little something to be said about it. The only thing I will point out is that in the NFL, you play most of your games in the daytime on a Sunday morning or afternoon, yet your entire exhibition season is a series of night games. So it's the opposite in the NFL,
true.
Right?
Yeah.
Preseason games are almost always exclusively played at night, as opposed to the regular season games where you're playing mostly in the daytime. So I think these guys are world-class athletes. They ought to be able to handle it, and I think for the most part they do. But I think it's an interesting notion. Should baseball consider making all spring training games night games just to get everybody into the feel of what's coming up for the season?
I'm gonna petition Rob Manfred. So
Good luck with that, man.
He's gonna be like, "Yeah, I got your petition." Yeah.
I like the day games. It frees up my evenings, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, get to the bottom of a bottle. All right, one last quick one, and it was just this. What are you most excited for during Padres season? That's what the question was.
Okay.
Chris, what are you most
What am I most
for?
excited for?
Do you want me to go
season?
first since I already knew and I had time to think about it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm most excited for I want to see how the superstars on this team respond to a bad season. I want to see them, dig in and have a winning season, have a playoff run, and show that they were signed for a reason. That's what I'm most excited to see, how these guys respond.
Okay. I guess I'm most excited to see if we can prove, this Padre team can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that water really does find its level. That's my favorite saying in baseball.
They
right?
broke physics last year, Chris.
Yeah, they totally broke physics last year. We waited all season for them to start getting some hits with runners in scoring position. We waited all season for them to start winning some one-run games. We waited all season for them to win a game in extra innings. And you know what? It never happened.
It never happened.
It never happened. All of a sudden, the season was over, and they had some of the worst statistics in those categories that baseball's ever seen.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, them play a couple of extra inning games the first week of the season, get a couple of walk-off wins.
Ooh.
I think they only had one of those last year at the very beginning of the season. I know maybe they had one really late, but remember they had the walk-off win like in their second home game?
Yes.
And they never had another one till late September, if at all.
I do remember that.
So I'm looking forward to some of that kind of excitement this year. A little magic in the favor of the Padres because they didn't create any of it last year.
None of it.
None.
All right. Thank you to all the Padres Pen Pals. When we get back, something's going to happen, Chris. I've been trying to hit this bed for like the last five minutes. There it goes.
Oh, there we go.
Whew. I was like, all right, are we going to have to cut this off? But anyway, when we get man, can I not speak or what? When we get back, we will talk more Gwynn and Chris, Padres. Also, we have some tickets to give away, so stay tuned on 97.3 The Fan. Okay, good.
Padres, Mariners.
Home run, Fernando.
Cactus League Baseball on The Fan. Our coverage begins Friday at 1 o'clock. The Padres play here on 97.3.
plenty of nonsense in between.
Oh, look! Here comes our fearless producer!
Gwynn and Chris starts right now on 97.3 The Fan.
Chris will be back with us for the Big Five. Gwynn is yet to come here to the show. He is calling the Padres game right now, and he's going to have some good stories. We're not sure when he's going to join the show, but he will if he can. But the Padres now in the bottom of the ninth against the Mariners, 1 out. They are up 13-3. Lots of hitting today for the Padres. And so I'm going to go over that in just a second about all of the different guys that are making a case for this team. It's going to be a really difficult decision for AJ Preller and co. And that's exactly what we all wanted to see. It would have been so much worse if it was not a difficult decision, but they scored 5 runs in the last 2 innings. And Jackson Merrill hit a home run. Jose Azocar hit a home run. So we'll get to that in just a second. But normally this is the time for Chris versus the fans, and I cannot step in for Chris and Chris versus the fans. So you are going to have to wait one more day. And if you are on the line, stay there, because you now have a chance to win a pair of tickets to the SD Legion home opener against Rugby FC Los Angeles this Saturday, March 16th. Grab tickets now at sdlegion.com. All you need to do is be caller number 6, making it easy on Adam, who's joining me here in studio, and I appreciate that. Caller number 6, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You'll win that pair of tickets to the SD Legion home opener against Rugby FC Los Angeles, Saturday, March 16th. Grab tickets now at sdlegion.com. Now, let's talk about this Padres game, because we got Darvish going 4 innings, giving up only 1 run. He allowed 3 hits, struck out 1, and walked 1. So a pretty good outing for Darvish in his 4 innings. Then you have, De Los Santos has had an up and down spring training. He pitched an inning today, gave up 3 hits, 2 earned runs. He struck out 2, but he gave up a home run. And so I would say that De Los Santos right now is one of the, not question marks, because I believe that he's going to be on the opening day roster. I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the opening day roster. But he's maybe not someone you'll see first out of the bullpen or the arm barn. I forgot to use that. I remember that over the weekend, because we were talking about how the injured or the IL used to be the disabled list, and then became the injured list because some were offended. And so now the bullpen cannot be called the bullpen because bulls might find it offensive. So we're going to call it the arm barn. But you got Wandy Peralta out of the arm barn. Wandy Peralta might be one of the steals of the offseason signing period for the Padres, which was, not there. They didn't sign many players, but Wandy Peralta has been really good in spring. He went an inning today, struck out 2, no hits, no walks, no runs. And then Robert Suarez, this is what you want to see out of Robert Suarez. You want to see him go an inning. He gave up a hit, but he struck out 2. So lots of really, really good stuff to talk about on the pitching side today. Let's talk about the runners in scoring position. Oh, and the game has just gone final now. Padres 13, Mariners 3. But let's talk about runners in scoring position today. Team was 5 for 11 with runners in scoring position. And I know, I hear you all saying this is just spring training. But I got to say, the closer we get to the season, the better these guys play. It makes me feel good about things. Fernando, he went 0 for 3 today. I'm not worried about him. Oscar McCarter, or is it Oscar? Yes, it's Oscar. He drove in Merrill today. He reached on an infield single. Azocar homered in the top of the 9th inning. He scored Graham Pauley and Brett Sullivan. Merrill homered in the 4th inning. Machado singled to center in the top of the 3rd inning. Campisado doubled to left, and Pauley scored to open up the scoring in the top of the 2nd. I think this is all very, very positive. And if you're looking at this in a completely different way, please tweet me or, chat me here on YouTube. You could join us if you want to watch us on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan. But Campusano is coming together. The Campusano decision to make him the full-time catcher, I think, is going to be the right decision. He went 2 for 3 today. Now, Graham Pauley went 2 for 5 today. He did strike out twice, but he was also all over the place. He scored 2 runs. Jurickson Profar 1 for 3, And like I said, Jose Azocar went 2 for 2 with a home run, and he drove in 2 runs as well. So lots of amazing stuff going on. Oh yeah, Jackson Merrill, on top of that home run that he had today, he went 3 for 4, and he's now hitting 344 for spring, and his OPS is 931. Just spring training, though. I'm not allowed to get excited. I really am not allowed to get excited. Some of the roster moves that were made earlier today, I just mentioned, Graham Pauley was a part of the game today, which means that he's still with the big league team. Jacob Marcy is not with the big league team. He was sent down, and so I think this is just a decision to allow him some more time to work on some things that he needs to work on. But I don't think that this is something that's going to be all year long. You have one injury, and I think he's right back with the team. But I don't mind seeing Jacob Marcy go back and work on some things. I don't think that's a bad idea. What in any form or shape or form is what I was trying to say. I like to see that. And I'm looking for this Jackson Merrill home run because I have not seen it yet. And there we go. He hit it a long way. Well, really, really long way. So go check that out with Jackson Merrill as well. Now, Yu Darvish. We actually know the opening day pitching rotation. And for the first 2 games in Korea, it's going to be Yu Darvish in game 1 against Tyler Glasnow. So Cillian Murphy lookalike, I think, who won the Best Actor last night. So Yu Darvish and Tyler Glasnow. And then you got game 2, Joe Musgrove and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So those are some really awesome matchups. And I know that we're going to be awake at 3 a.m, but I don't know that the rest of baseball is going to be awake at 3 a.m. I still kind of find things to be a little weird. I'm very excited about the Korea series. I am. And I don't want it to seem like I'm not. But the more I talk to people and the more I think about it, I don't understand why the game, and I do understand because they want it to grow, but I don't understand why the games have to be at 3 a.m. for the fans of the team that, live in their city, that you live in their city. So San Diegans and Los Angelans are going to have to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch this game. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Maybe make it a day game over there in Korea. I guess 2 p.m. here, because we're trying to figure out how to get Tony on the show. But 2 p.m. here is 7 a.m. there. So you can't play a game at 7 a.m. And I guess what? If I'm going to do the math live on the air, 2 p.m., 5, 7. You could do a game at noon if it was a 7 p.m. game here. Anyway, this is all for naught because it's not going to change. But 3 a.m. at 7 Mile Casino with 97.3 The Fan, Yu Darvish and Tyler Glasnow. And I have made the decision that I'm going to go. And I am going to be a part of this extravaganza. I think it's a great idea by the station. I think it's awesome from Ben and Woods that they're doing this. I think it's awesome that Adam got it all together. And I think there's going to be a lot of people there. A ton of people. Jacob says he's going to be there. If you really want to let me know that you're going to be there, please put it in the chat. But it's going to be a good time. And I think Yu Darvish is going to be ready. Now, the rainout on Friday was very strange. So we don't have rainouts often here, being the Padres flagship, because obviously San Diego, it doesn't rain all that often, but it does elsewhere. But we've never, I don't think, and Adam can jump in if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever had a game canceled or postponed due to a rainout in spring training. And it just kind of stinks because we didn't have a Skraby show. We didn't have the rest of the Gwynn Chris show. And it was like literally 10 minutes before we went off the air, it started downpour. There was a downpour out there, and they postponed the game. So Yu Darvish had to move his start until today, which I was like a little tiny bit not concerned, but I thought it was weird. And maybe Adam can answer this question. Why can't Yu Darvish just move back to Saturday and then have all of the rotation move back a little bit? Or is that just not how it works, Adam? Do you know?
These guys are so routine oriented that I think that's why they do a certain thing on a certain day in between starts, and pushing it back by even a day, I guess, is what throws them out of their rhythm.
Okay, I can get that. I guess I want you Darvish to pitch in the places that he wants to pitch, because if he's not ready and if he feels like he warmed up on Friday night and he doesn't want to risk throwing and after cooling down again, I could see why that would be an issue. And so in the end, it doesn't matter because Yu Darvish is fine and he's going to be the opening day starter in Korea for the Padres against Tyler Glasnow. I don't know. Joe Musgrove, that's the one I'm really looking forward to, is Joe Musgrove and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Yamamoto hasn't had the best spring after his first appearance. He wasn't necessarily great in his his second appearance. So we'll see what's going on with that too. Padres over the weekend were really good. Manny 3 for 3 on Saturday. And then yesterday, Johnny Brito he started the game for the Padres. He went 4 2/3, and he got himself into some trouble. But like our friend Blake Snell, he did not give up any runs, even though he gave up 4 hits and 3 walks in his 4 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 6. So Brito has been a really good spring addition here, and you got Mr. Go pitched a third of an inning. He did not have a good appearance on Sunday against the Angels, but Tom Cosgrove only walked 1, win an inning. And the one that I am looking to see what happens with is Pedro Avila, because I really believe that he can be a starter, but recently I don't know that he's shown me enough to say that he's going to be a starter. And I think he's probably gonna. I don't know where he's gonna start the team with. I would think maybe bullpen, maybe taxi squad or jet squad, but it's an interesting one with him, because at the end of the year, I could have sworn that you could pencil him into maybe the 5th spot in the rotation, but I don't think that's the case anymore. Let's go back to the chat, because I had some people talking about the 7 Mile Casino opening day watch party at 3 a.m. Like I said, Jacob says he's going to be there. Detlef Molt, I love some of these names, will be there starting at 3 a.m. Hashtag 3 a.m. Let's see. I'm sorry. Easy Money is going to debate to be there. Anthony says debating it's really hard for me to wake up that early, so I might just stay up until 3. See, that was old me. That was college me. I guess on Tuesday night, I'm going to do the Skraby show, get everybody super pumped up for Sammy Lev's 2 a.m. Padres pregame show. Is he's got to be, right, Adam? He's doing a pregame show at 2 a.m., right?
Sammy's going to do 2:05 a.m. pregame show here at the studio, the Odyssey Empire, and then I think he's going to head on down to 7 Mile and meet us for some fun for a little while, and then head back here and do postgame.
That guy, he does so much. I don't understand it. And if you want to see a really great clip of Sammy Lev from earlier in his broadcasting career, you can go to his Twitter at Sammy Lev, or you can go to my Twitter at Matt Skraby, because he put up a newsreel that he put up a newsreel from when he was doing things back in the day. Like, you could see how much younger Sam is. Not that Sam's really even that old to begin with, but it's really funny because he's like in a, I don't know what to call it. Maybe like he's trying to like shovel dirt, and he's doing stories like that on the news, which I find very funny. So Sammy Lev, 2:05 a.m. from the studio. Then he will be showing up at 7 Mile Casino and then coming back. So if you're going to be there, I'm looking forward to it. All of us are looking forward to it. When we get back here on Gwynn and Chris in 97.3 The Fan, we are going to hear from Mike Shildt. He's going to talk about Yu Darvish. We're also going to hear quickly from the ESPN Top 100 article. They put out a ranking of every player in Major League Baseball, kind of like MLB Network, but I'll tell you where some of the different Padres are. And one of the Padres is already ranked higher in the ESPN article than the MLB Network offering. So we'll go over that as well. We still got the Big Five to go. Tony, whenever he gets in place, will be with us as well. A lot more show to go here. I'm Matt Skraby, back with you shortly on 97.3 The Fan. One of the things I love about the cameras and I hate about the cameras is I love that people get to see what happens during a radio show because you don't really get to do that. What I hate is when I look at my camera and I see that my hair is like a crazy person because I've been like putting my hands through it. That's one of the things that people have noticed about me is that I am very fidgety, and that is not my fault, but it's my parents' fault. You can blame them for that. Tony Gwy Jr. is making his way back from the game. He just texted me saying he's going to join me as soon as possible, but the traffic in Arizona is terrible, and I have been in that traffic, and it is terrible. So we're going to go with the Big Five here in a little bit, but we're going to start with manager Mike Shildt. And we just talked about Yu Darvish being named the Game 1 starter, which if you ask Sam Levitt, doesn't mean anything. If you were here with us a few weeks ago, Sam didn't think it meant anything. But Mike Shildt, maybe he thinks it means something. And he was asked by the media this morning to talk about Yu Darvish starting Game 1 against the Dodgers.
And exciting, right? Yu Darvish, and then Joe Musgrove the day after. I mean, these are the guys that anchor our starting rotation, have had tremendous off seasons. Are more than ready and chomping at the bit to get started for regular competition, and couldn't have two better guys at the top of rotation. It's an honor to have them there.
It's one game, but the honor of opening day. We make kind of a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Pitchers like it. Why was it you?
It slated into really a lot of the work, the way the work went, and then, gosh, you could have literally flipped a coin. What a good situation to have two stud aces at the top of your rotation. It just worked out from a work standpoint, a build-up standpoint for you to get the opening day nod.
Will Joe get the home opener?
That's a good question, but TBD. Let's just get to Korea first.
So there's Mike Shildt with the media, Kevin Acee, AJ Cassavell. I am a little surprised, I gotta say, that Joe Musgrove is not starting first game in Korea, and I would really, really hope that they allow Joe Musgrove to start the home opener when they come back and they play against the Giants 8 days later. And I don't know. It doesn't seem like Yu Darvish is. I guess I don't really have all the answers because I'm not there and I'm not a major league manager, but it did surprise me that Yu Darvish was going first instead of second. I do love this about Mike Shildt, though. He is a funny guy, I gotta say. He's able to handle the media in a good way, and of course, it all's nice and rosy right now. But I really think that he is really sarcastic. Easy Money is saying it. He's really sarcastic with Kevin Acee because those guys are always trying to get information out of him, and he knows it. He knows it's part of their job, so it's going to be on him to keep that information from everyone. Side note. Austin Eckler to the Commanders. We just got the notification, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But now that the Padres are going to be starting the season before anyone else, they have 8 days off from Game 2 to the home opener, or I guess 7 days off. And Michael King, I know that a lot of people are very excited to see him. And Mike Shildt was asked by the media whether or not, because of the long break, if we could see Michael King in Korea.
He will be available, yes.
Given that he's done it before, he's pitched in a week before, he seems like a pretty adaptable guy. Do you anticipate that being pretty seamless for him, even though he is building up for a start, unfortunately?
I do. He is hungry to compete, and he's had the experience to do it, and he's more than willing and capable, and good chance he's going to do it.
I love it. I mean, I want guys on my team that are willing to do anything to win, and that seems like what Michael King is all about. And if you have all of that rest in between and you don't think it's going to affect your rhythm or affect your preparation, then go for it. I mean, how beneficial, how much, let me start that over. How nice is it for Mike Shildt to be able to use Michael King here? Maybe Yu Darvish goes 4, Michael King goes 3, something like that. You could spread out the number of pitches across the entire pitching staff, and that's very nice. I would really, really like to see. I cannot wait to get some of these guys into the season and just seeing whether or not the trade actually paid off and not just spring training paid off. Abraham, Skraby, who would you like to see in the starting lineup up? I don't actually understand that. Never mind. I shouldn't have said that.
The
Thank
word
you.
up is a typo. Just who do you want to see in the starting lineup, I think.
Oh, okay. We'll go over that another time. We've done that a couple times, but we'll go over that another time. Welsh Friars in the house. He's coming to us from Wales. I learned that was the actual country instead of, just Welsh. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to stop reading the chats because now we're getting spammed by a bunch of different things. All right, the top 100 players according to ESPN, that was released. And if you, as Chris would say, want to pay to see it, you can on ESPN.com. But I was looking through, and their number one player, pretty simple, Ronald Acuna Jr. Number 2, Aaron Judge. Number 3, Juan Soto. And then number 4, Mookie Betts, number 5, Freddie Freeman. But the first Padre, and I'm kind of surprised because Shohei Ohtani was actually ranked number 9 just as the DH. But the first Padre on the list that it was different from what MLB Network presented. Fernando Tatis Jr. is 14th on this list, and he was 26th on the MLB Network list. And so I'm not sure why. I actually think that he's in the top 10 of players in baseball. And Adam and I were kind of talking in the break about why he was in 2021 was ranked the 6th best player in baseball before the year. And then now in 2024, he's gone all the way down and he's had to work his way back up. Now, I do know he missed time. He was injured. He also got suspended for the PED stuff. So I understand that. But don't you just look at every single year who's coming into the year? Don't you just look at them and say, Fernando's a top 10 guy? I don't understand. For me, at least, it doesn't compute that Fernando's not a top 10 guy in these lists. But Garrett Cole's number 7, Corey Seager's number 6, Yordan Alvarez number 8, like I said, Ohtani number 9, and Corbin Carroll number 10, Adley Rutschman 11. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but these are the guys that are in front of Fernando. Matt Olson, number 12, Bryce Harper, 13. And then if you keep going down, I'm going to keep looking for the next Padre on the list, which, Manny Machado is the next guy on the list at 25. So I think some experts may be sleeping on the Padres slightly, and I understand why they may be sleeping on a guy like Manny Machado. But we've seen over the years that it doesn't matter what kind of season Manny is having, he's going to put up his numbers. But Manny, I think, has a lot of not proving to do this season, but I think he wants to have a good year so he can kind of just make everybody be quiet about last year and about the failures of last year. I think Manny Machado is going to have a huge year. But there you go. If you want to go, like I said, if you want to find the full article, you can go to ESPN.com and it's up there at the top of the page. But Fernando, first Padre on the list. All right. When we get back, we will have the Big Five. And in the Big Five, we're going to talk about a whole lot of different things. And Trevor Bauer, something we haven't mentioned today, is that Trevor Bauer pitched over the weekend. And he pitched against Dodgers minor leaguers. And I'll just give it away. He pitched great. But do you think that the Major League Baseball owners are blacklisting him? That's what we're going to talk about in the Big Five. Tony's still to join us here on 97.3 The Fan. Skraby back with you here in the Odyssey Palace on 97.3 The Fan. Did you know you can listen to 97.3 The Fan with your smart speaker? Ask your device to play 97.3 The Fan to give it a shot. It works. Trust me. Because I ask my smart speaker to play 97.3 The Fan all the time, and it takes me right there. So we're going to do the Big Five here in just a second. There was a brawl over the weekend in college basketball, women's college basketball in the SEC Championship. T. Higgins is not happy. Corbin Burns is named the opening day starter. So we'll get into that in just a second. But I wanted to bring up some of the messages that we received on YouTube real quick. And so the first one, we were talking about video games earlier. And Chris asked me, how many hours worth of video games? Like when I sit down to play video games on the weekend, how long do I sit there for? And I said, probably 5 or 6 hours. And that's true. It's the truth. I played for 6 hours on Saturday, and then I hear Adam's weekend of being a dad, and I'm like, you must want to punch me in the face because I'm doing nothing. But Chance says, I am married, and I play for about 5 hours a day, Skraby. Being married for over 20 years is just like any other day. So after 20, Skraby, you could play 5+ hours a day. That actually makes sense, Chance. I could see myself waiting 20 years of marriage just so I could play the 5 hours of video games per day, though. That's crazy. If I was retired, I might be playing 5 hours of video games per day. This is kind of a side note, but JH619, he said, Skraby, I followed your lead and signed up for SD Fat Loss. I start Friday. I'm stoked to do it. Saw results that you got, and I am sold. So good luck with that. Hit me up if you need any help with anything. Just follow the program. I promise you it works. It really does. And I'm still following it to this day. And like now I guilt myself when I eat carbs. I'm like, you ate carbs 2 days ago, Mr. Skraby. I don't call myself Mr. Skraby, but you ate carbs a couple days ago and now you can't eat carbs today, but you're doing it anyway. You're throwing your body off balance. This is the battles that go on in my head. Last one I want to bring up, Anthony. He's a major contributor to our YouTube throughout the entire day. So thank you, Anthony. But he says that as a bald guy, he looks at Adam in the camera and says, I'm bald, so I feel represented, Adam Klug. And I just want everybody to know, Adam is not bald. He just has a really short haircut. A really short haircut. Isn't that true, Adam?
Yeah, this is fresh. Shaved it earlier today.
Like, are you going clippers or are you bicking?
This is clippers with no guard.
Clippers with no guard. So
basically the closest you can get to bicking it.
So why did you go that route?
It's how I like the look. I mean,
okay.
I used to in college.
If that's it, then that's fine.
By now, everyone has seen the picture of what my hair looked like in college. This is about the extreme opposite.
It is. There was a lot of hair. It's like Chris's picture of him with the hair as well. He chose baldness, Anthony says. All right. Well, we're going to get you to your traffic report here in just a second. We're also going to get to the Big Five. So stick around because that's right now.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Just a couple of trouble spots here. Eastbound 8 near Waring Road, collision over the right shoulder. Fire crews got that slow lane blocked. And a hit and run crash near the border, southbound 805, right before Camino de la Plaza. Fire crews blocking the 2 left lanes. I'm Kelly Danick, Gwynn Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's that time of the show when we check on the latest in sports. Only the most important topics and questions are brought to light.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
These news stories will astound and amaze you. The one, the only.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
The Big Five starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
And Chris, here we are, the week that the Padres are leaving for Korea to start the season against the Dodgers. How do you feel? How do you feel about it?
I can't believe it's already here.
Me neither.
Right?
Me neither. It's been
seems like we just beat the Dodgers in a playoff series. Oh no, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was much longer ago. It hasn't happened recently.
No, I forgot. Basically, I forgot the very end of last season. So
I think everybody did, Chris.
I think every Padre fan is just kind of excited that this off season has almost come to an end.
Yeah.
You know, it's because when you have a disappointing season like that, you just want to go right back out and make it all right again.
You do. You definitely do.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it.
Number 5.
And I know that we have talked about this before, and I know we've answered this before, but now we have some raw data to add into the Trevor Bauer conversation, Chris. Over the weekend, did you hear about this? He pitched for the Asian Breeze against the Dodgers minor leaguers. I want to remind everybody, Dodgers minor leaguers. He touched 99. He went 3 scoreless with 4 strikeouts and a walk. And apparently, according to the things I saw, no Major League scouts were in attendance, which now is leading people to believe Major League Baseball is blacklisting him. So, Chris, do you feel like Major League Baseball is blacklisting him, or is this his own doing?
It's his own doing, Skraby. It honestly is. I mean, the fact that nobody would go show up to watch a guy, with his credentials, right? He's got a Cy Young Award. He's still throwing 99 miles an hour. The fact that absolutely nobody would show up to watch this guy pitch tells you that the situation that he got himself into, and you can say, well, he was never convicted of anything, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter. It's such a bad look that nobody wants to touch this guy with a 20-foot pole. I think from his side, he can say, yeah, he's being blacklisted, but he put himself in this own situation. There's no way that baseball teams wouldn't want Trevor Bauer if it wasn't for the kinds of problems that he had off the field. So I do. I think both things, I guess, are true. I think he's being blacklisted, but I think it's his own doing. So, I mean, teams are of free will, can do what they want. I mean, any team could go see him pitch and be, consider signing him. I think it's pretty clear nobody wants to.
Yeah. Do I think he's being blacklisted? Well, I want to say it's probably both, as Chris said, but it is very strange to me that there's no team out there willing to even take a sniff at him. And he's saying, I'll pitch for the MLB minimum. I don't even care. Just let me pitch. And I do feel like people are blacklisting him. No one's blackmailing him for the record. Blacklisting him because there are teams with no moral scruples that would bring in Trevor Bauer to help them pitch. Because obviously he still has something. So I think that they're banding together to stick it to the guy or whatever. I know he has his past. I know he's done some questionable things. I have to put that aside in this case, though.
Here's the thing with Trevor Bauer, beyond the fact that he did what he did or he didn't do what he didn't do, whatever it is. I don't think anybody wants to take a chance on bringing the guy into their clubhouse.
That's another point.
It really is. I think a lot of people are looking at this incident or the incidents and saying, you know what, he's a bad guy. We have moral scruples. Our fan base will never put up with it. I don't know that we can be that nice to Major League Baseball that they're so concerned about their fan bases, because you're right. Baseball, football especially, but baseball too. They've taken chances on bad guys before despite the fact that their fans might not be happy about it. But I think Trevor Bauer's clubhouse ability to ruin a clubhouse, that is something that a team will not touch at all. And I think it's pretty clear that you combine everything. This guy has played himself. You played yourself.
Congratulations.
As DJ Khaled would say. And I think he's played himself right out of baseball.
Right out of baseball, man. That's a hard pill to swallow. But
yeah, honestly, if he was a good clubhouse guy and he made a mistake and did what he did, I don't know that they wouldn't be able to forgive him a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's both things. He's bad off the field. He's bad in the clubhouse.
Yeah, we could go on for days about this, but
we
probably will, because it will come up again at some point.
Yeah, he'll pitch against somebody's minor league team somewhere else.
Yeah, that is true. It was a minor league team. South Carolina forward Camila Cardoso was one of 6 players ejected from the SEC championship game after she shoved LSU's Flage. I don't know if that's the name.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's right.
Oh, Flage. Yes. Flage Johnson to the floor late in the fourth quarter of the Gamecocks 79-72 win. Gamecocks guard Malaysia Fulwiley had stolen the ball from Johnson, who wrapped her up and was called for an intentional foul. Then Johnson bumped South Carolina's Ashlyn Watkins, lots of names here, keep up with me, while heading to her bench. And then originally Camila Cardoso, she rushed in and pushed Johnson to the ground. And I got to say, that was a pretty good push. That was more like just a solid person hitting another person. Anyway, Camila Cardoso apologized after the game, saying she takes full responsibility and knows she was in the wrong for this. But with more eyes comes more coverage. I'm up first. Is this actually a good thing for women's basketball? My answer to this, I'm not a big fan of fighting, but yes, I think this is a good thing for women's basketball. Just like the whole Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark thing, you want some controversy, you want some stuff like this, and it makes people realize how serious everybody's taking it. So yes, I think it's a good thing. Chris?
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
I know.
College women's basketball has taken leaps and bounds forward. It really, truly has. The Caitlin Clark game that she broke one of the records a couple of weeks ago was the highest rated college basketball game of this season, men or women. I mean, that is something unheard of in the past, right?
Yeah.
So women's basketball is making huge strides. They've got star players. They got people who we know. I'm tuning in to watch the games. You're tuning into what people are tuning in to watch these games. I watched almost that entire game between South Carolina and LSU. But what happened is not a good thing for basketball, and it's a bad thing for behavior. And here's the thing, I give Cardozo a lot of credit for coming out and apologizing and owning up to the mistake that she made. You could go through this play 2 or 3 times. There were a lot of people at fault. The real problem in this game was the fact that the officials let it get out of hand in the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter. So when this happened in the fourth quarter, tempers had already been flaring from before. And that is what led to this. They got to do a better job of getting officials who can control the game. But that said, you got to – I know that we're in a different era now. You're going to taunt, or players are taunting. Players are celebrating wildly every time they make a three-point shot. I understand it's different than it used to be, but you still want to keep your poise out there. And that is a lesson that I would like younger people who are tuning in and viewing these games, a lesson that they need to learn and understand. And when they see something like this happen, they think it's okay for them to do the same thing. So that's why it's a bad thing.
Chris is right, everybody, but I'm going to tune in to see fights. But Chris
is
right.
You are.
Chris is
I know
right,
you are.
I want to make sure that clear.
You tune in for controversy. I get it. And yes, like Major League Baseball, bench clearing brawl, you're going to want to see the video.
We barely see that anymore, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, here we go.
Number 3.
All right. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports T. Higgins has requested a trade after the team franchise tag him, the team being the Cincinnati Bengals. They franchise tagged him a few weeks ago. Here's the tweet from Adam Schefter. Higgins loves Cincinnati and hoped to be with the team long-term, but is disappointed that the team has not had any talks about a long-term contract since March of 2023. He's ready to move on to a new home, Adam Schefter tweeted. Does he work for T. Higgins' agent? Because he's saying he loves Cincinnati. Anyway, they were slated to pay him $21.8 million on the franchise tag if they can't agree to a long-term deal. So, Chris, is T. Higgins worth big money?
He's worth a lot of money. I don't know how big. 21.8, he ought to be pretty happy with that. I mean, look, the franchise tag is, from what I understand, has always been the top 5 salaries in the league, right? The average of those 5.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think that T. Higgins is one of the top 5 receivers in the league. So getting a franchise tag and getting paid in the same company as, say, Tyreek Hill and, Justin Jefferson and, CeeDee Lamb and whoever you want to name as the top 5 receivers in football, that's pretty good for T. Higgins. But I also understand the desire to have a long-term contract and have be a little bit, in a comfortable position. And going year to year, that can wear on somebody. So he wants to find somebody that wants to, where he can find a home and settle down for a couple of years. I don't think I think he's well within his right to complain a little bit about this and ask out.
All right. That was interesting. You kind of changed my mind a little bit because I don't necessarily know that he's proven enough to be paid number one money because he was hurt all last year. He's had great seasons, yeah, but he was also alongside Jamar Chase. I think he is worth at least top 10, top 15 wide receiver money, but maybe not top 5. I think he'll be disappointed if he goes somewhere else. He's not going to be with Joe Burrow. He's not going to be with Jamar Chase. And as you say all the time, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So.
Yeah, well, that's true. And I mean, it's interesting. He's a number 2 receiver on his own team.
Yeah,
but he's being paid as one of the top 5 receivers in the entire league.
I guess that's a little bit of good faith, but I understand why he wants the.
But I understand why he'd want to get something long term.
Number 2.
Even though he has yet to officially debut with the Orioles, Corbin Burns, will be the opening day starter for the Baltimore Orioles, and that was expected after he was acquired from the Brewers in a trade last month. Orioles manager Brandon Hyde made it official with the announcement yesterday. He said, "It was a real honor for me to let him know. We've been talking about it for a while, and we're really excited to watch him pitch on opening day." I'm up first. What is your outlook on the Orioles? I'm a huge Orioles guy. I'm Orioles West over here. Adley Rutschman. They're going to have guys like Gunnar Henderson, and Jackson Holiday may make a crack at the team at some point. What's my outlook? I think they build on last year and they win a playoff series. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at the Yankees because the Yankees got Juan Soto, but I have my own concerns about Juan Soto. We've gone over that before.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Yankees will be right there. Toronto's good. Tampa Bay's always better than I think they're going to be. But the Orioles definitely should be the team to beat. Don't forget, they won more games than the Dodgers did last year. And that's how good the Orioles were. They won 101 in that division. All right. One of the best divisions in all of baseball. They still won 101 games. The addition of Corbin Burns is exactly what they need. They've got a bunch of young, good starting pitchers that are going to just all slot down one spot, right, to 2, 3, and 4 instead of having to be aces. Corbin Burns can take that and give them the innings they need. I definitely think Baltimore is a team to beat, and I think most people are overlooking them despite all the great success they had last year.
It should be exciting. Now I need to get Adley Rutschman in our fantasy league that we're playing, Chris. I need it.
Yeah, just for that, I will draft him. And
you're going to draft him like number 1 overall or something.
Wouldn't be the worst pick you could make.
Oh, no. He was great last year. He was great.
Number 1.
All right. This one's a tough one to talk about in a different way. I've done helicopters tours around the Hawaiian Islands before. I'm not sure. Have you, Chris? Have you ever done that before? Done the helicopter
not a
tour?
helicopter, no.
Okay. Well, I thought it was great. I loved it. They took us to different spots where Jurassic Park was filmed and all that. But this clip that I'm about to play is a nightmare from one of those tours. This happened recently. And it's all just noise. There's nothing no dialogue, but I think you can visualize what's happening. And I'll play it on YouTube. So if you want, you can see it later. But here it is, Chris. Just listen along with everybody else. They are just taking a nice leisurely stroll. And at the end there, that was them crashing into the beach. So terrifying. The video.
Was there a storm or something?
No,
or
what happened was there was a mechanical failure. And so I will explain because the tweet that I found this on explained it. I guess whenever you have a mechanical failure, you try to auto rotate and it helps you to slow down as you're falling. So the guy did everything he was supposed to do. Everybody lived. But my question, Chris, does this make you rethink flying in a helicopter?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, good. Me neither.
I don't worry about stuff like that. I really never have. I mean, I read stories of people getting hit by cars crossing the street every day. Not going to keep me from crossing the street. I have been in a helicopter before, not of a tour. You said a tour of Hawaii. I had never done that. But yeah, I always feel safe when I travel in the air. I mean, I understand that accidents happen, but I can't live my life like that, Skraby. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. I think this makes me feel like I'm even safer. If a guy knows what to do when his helicopter stops working, I feel good. I feel good about it.
I mean, no one will ever, forget and the tragic thing that happened with Kobe, on a helicopter ride. I mean, there are terrible outcomes to these kinds of things from time to time, but I don't think any of us should ever stop living our lives.
I agree. All right, that's it for the Big Five. Chris is off for the rest of the day, and we will get back to some more Padres talk here on 97.3 The Fan.
97.3 The Fan.
A ton going on today in the Padres world. Also, a ton going on today in NFL free agency. And if you missed the... Did I do that? Oh, it's my computer. That's my computer. All right. Sorry, everybody. You can watch us on YouTube if you want. 97.3 The Fan. Just search that. But there's a lot going on in the NFL, a lot going on with the Padres. In this segment, we are going to hear from Mike Shildt once again. He's going to talk about Jacob Marcy and what he saw from him during camp. Also, Mike Shildt on Xander Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting 1 and 2, which I have noticed because I think Sammy, it was the day that Fernando hit his first home run, and Sammy Lev and crew and the media crew asked him about batting leadoff. I'm talking about Fernando Tatis Jr., and he said he loves batting leadoff. So it's I don't know. I don't know why he's not batting leadoff, but hey, Mike Shildt knows a lot more than me, so I'm going to go with it. And if Xander Bogaerts could get going, then that would be awesome. Also, I saw this over the weekend, and I thought it was an interesting take. And the reason that this person thought Xander Bogaerts was batting first is so he can't hit into double plays. And that is the truth of that take. I mean, he does hit into a lot of double plays. You can't lie about that. But he's also learning kind of sort of how to play a new position right now. Padres did make some moves earlier today. They have optioned, they have 37 players remaining in Major League camp. So they have optioned Matthew Batten to minor league camp and reassigned Cal Mitchell, Jacob Marcy, and Tim LeCastro, Mason McCoy, and Kevin Plawecki to minor league camp. But I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of those, honestly. A lot of those guys at the big league level at some point. Jacob Marcy for sure. Tim LeCastro did some great things here so far in spring training, but he's going to start out in the minor league camp along with some of those other guys. 31 players is what you can have on your roster going to Korea. 31. They have 37, so there's going to be 6 more cuts here coming up very, very soon. The Padres leave on Wednesday for Korea, so Tony Gwy Jr. is about to take off and go international. Tony Gwynn Jr. and the Padres are going to be there. They're going to have a couple exhibition games before they actually play their games against the Dodgers. But the Dodgers, I mentioned this last week, the Dodgers are traveling in a way so that they're trying not to mess with their body clocks. And the Padres are actually traveling. They're traveling through the night. So it's going to be interesting to see how the two teams actually, how they adjust everything, whether or not the actual, the Dodgers with their time synchronicity guy is correct or not, or if the Padres, I just say, I mean, we're overthinking it when we're hiring someone for time synchronicity. So anyway, that's enough of my thoughts on time synchronicity. Like I said, Tony's going to join me here shortly, but let's go to Mike Shildt and let's hear from him. And we're going to hear from him on first the Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting first. Sorry, never mind. Nope. We're going to Jacob Marcy. I forgot. That's my bad. Jacob Marcy, he, as I just mentioned, he was reassigned to minor league camp. And Mike Shildt with the media earlier today, they asked him what he saw from Marcy in camp and what the future's like.
Quite a bit. Yeah, Marcy had a really good camp. Seen him play. Obviously had a great fall league, but you don't know how guys are going to react till they actually get here in this environment. And it's one of the next to last steps. You can't replicate a major league game or a major league season and how guys are going to respond. And, when the bullets start to fly for real, figuratively speaking. But he showed up and didn't make the camp bigger than it was. A question for him, probably as much as me saying it, but I know he checked the box for him. He did for me, at least, by showing up and competing against, major league competition. Didn't back down from it. Looked like he belonged. And really, the decision with Marsh, he did everything he could have possibly done. He was on a great track to join us at some point and have a long career with us at the big league level. Just the decision most recently was, is there going to be everyday time for him? Didn't think there was going to be those bats. Let him go down and get those bats and continue to work on his craft.
What would be some of the considerations that go into, because some of these guys who don't have a lot of major league experience could come up and not play every day. So what's the difference between the two guys, a guy who want to play every day and a guy who can not?
Yeah, I mean, there's no clear, great, perfect answer for that. But ideally, when guys break in for their first time, we want them to get those consistent at bats and get an opportunity to play every day. And our evaluation is that they'll be ready to do that. You know, most guys that break in that have been everyday players in the minor league side that come in and more utility role, that's a tough ask at the highest level, not to get those consistent bats and learn what that looks like at the highest level for the first time probably in their lives. So we'll continue to work on that with the guys coming up from the minor league side if that's the case. But ultimately, we want guys to show up and there's a path for them to get at bats.
It makes a lot of sense. You might as well put Jacob Marcy and Cal Mitchell and Tim LeCastro and Mason McCoy and Kevin Plawecki down in minor league camp so that they can get those at-bats as he's talking about. But Jacob Marcy also, he was the same guy, if I'm not mistaken, he was the same guy who won the MVP of the Arizona Fall League, and he's just coming on the scene. And I don't see a reason to put him at the major league level right now, unless he was just overpowering and overwhelming everyone. I think it makes sense to have him start in minor league camp and see if he tears that up, and then he can he can start tearing up the major league level. But it seems like Mike Shildt thinks about everything a lot. He thinks of all the different angles, and it seems like this spring training, I bet you he's in a much better mood than he would have if these guys weren't playing well. But he knows he's got hard decisions to make, and he knows that these guys are going to be somewhat of the future of the team, and so they want to handle them correctly, and they want to make sure that they're not throwing him to the wolves, basically, because we've seen before. CJ Abrams made the opening day roster a couple years ago. He struggled throughout, and they sent him back down. He kind of reset a little bit, and then they pulled him back up to the major league roster, and he was better. He had he had some better at bats when he came back up the second time. But it's not a bad thing for these guys to start in the minor leagues. It's not at all. Just because you're not going to Korea, I know that would be pretty fun, but you could still stay here and get some work in and just be ready to go. You never know what could happen in Korea. All right, so Xander Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis Jr. last couple games, I mean, last maybe week or so, we've seen Xander Bogaerts hit first. We've seen Jake Cronenworth sometimes hit second. We've seen Fernando Tatis hitting third or second. But Mike Shildt was asked about, and he was asked whether or not the what was he asked? Hold on one second. Mike Shildt was asked about those guys and where they're going to hit in the order, and here's what he told the media.
Yeah, you might see it, in a different manner tomorrow, the day after. So, what I like about it, you got a guy in Bogey that you got two of your better guys at the top of the lineup that when you turn the lineup over, you're comfortable, confident, excited to have them at that, at the top. Bogey's takes great at bats, higher on base percentage, enjoys the leadoff spot. He likes hitting anywhere, but, so getting him on and having Toddy be able to drive him in and do some things behind him that are, as dynamic player as he is. But the good news is those guys are pretty interchangeable.
Yeah, that is good news. But I don't know where I want to see these guys hit right now. I love seeing Fernando in the leadoff spot because he said it, as I referenced, he said it when he hit his first home run a couple weekends ago, that he likes to start the game with a bang. He wants to come out there and he wants to hit a home run, or he wants to get on base, get the crowd into it if they're at home, get the crowd out of it if they're on the road. And there's just that energy about Fernando at the top spot that you got to love. And Xander Bogaerts, obviously, professional hitter. He's someone that you could trust in the top spot. But I wonder how much of this is really, and this is kind of a conspiracy theory, but I wonder how much of this is because Xander Bogaerts has been hitting into a lot of double plays and did so last year. They may never say it. They may not even think about it once in their decision-making. But I got to say, watching Xander Bogaerts hit into double plays is not my favorite thing. So if he just hits into like just one out, a grounder, and he grounds out, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. All right. Tony just texted me saying that he is going to be joining us in just a second. So we are going to get to break. Actually, maybe Adam can pull him up on the board. He is, I believe he's fan TL1 on the board for everybody. That's a little bit of a behind the scenes type thing. We also are going to play Sammy Lev's reel here in a little bit, but we'll get Tony on in just a second. He just came back from the game. Padres won 13-3. And Xander Bogaerts in that leadoff spot went 0 for 2. Eggy Rosario had 3 RBIs today. He also had a home run. So lots of different guys contributing today. And Tony is indeed ready from Peoria. Tony, we haven't talked in quite some time. How are you doing?
Hello, Matthew. How are you, brother?
Hello, Anthony. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. How are you, brother?
I'm good. It's good to be back in the desert. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but Padres look good today offensively. Everybody got in on the action, it seemed like.
Yeah, let me ask you about this. Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr. going 1-2. We just heard from Mike Shildt saying that they could do that, or they could interchange. So what do you like in your leadoff hitter? Which guy would you say is more fit for this team to be the leadoff hitter?
I don't know if it's Bogey, honestly. I would say, and it's difficult to say, right? Because, right now, what's in your head is what you've seen in spring training. And Jesse and I were talking about it during the game. Oftentimes, there's no correlation in what happened in spring training versus what's happening in the season. But that being said, the best option is probably still Toddy. I like Ha-Sung in that leadoff spot too. I think he's probably, outside of Toddy, the next most versatile, where you can hit him in multiple, different spots in the lineup, where you would want to hit him in different spots in the lineup. But I still think Toddy is your most explosive option in the leadoff spot. And, the thing about Mike is not giving anybody anything. I think he is really good at kind of allowing the thought that, yes, this could be an option, but I'm not telling you if it is the option. And I think that's the way to go. He still has at least two more games here in the desert, and then 2 more exhibitions before he has to make that final decision. And quite frankly, it's going to change. I find it hard to believe that there's going to be a lineup put out opening day or even home opening day, and that's going to be the lineup every day moving forward. I think the game of baseball in today's day and age is more conducive with lineups that can have some interchangeable pieces. Now, there are some parts of the lineup that you want to remain the same, and I think that'll be the case. I don't think that middle of the lineup will move too much, but I could see them trying to experiment to see what gets them the best jolt offensively at the leadoff spot.
I think it's Fernando too, but I think Mike Shildt knows a little bit of what he's doing here and there. So
yeah, I'd say
let
so.
him make that decision. What about some of the different? I was just trying to read this one thing real quick, and that was a bad move because I got stuck in the middle of my thought. But they sent down Marcy. He's going to go to the minor leagues. But Chris and I were talking earlier about Graham Pauley and Jackson Merrill. We think Jackson Merrill has pretty much locked himself up in opening day roster, but you are a Tyler Wade guy, and Graham Pauley, though, has come out of nowhere, kind of. Not really out of nowhere. But anyway, let me stop talking and get your thoughts on these guys. I'm just talking in circles right now. What are your thoughts on Graham Pauley?
I don't fault you. You've been carrying the show by yourself for a little bit of time. Thanks. So I understand what it is to have,
Sometimes
just be
I
talking.
Just need to break that circle.
Yeah. With you, dog. Listen, it's not that I'm a Tyler Wade guy. I just thought that because he had more experience, because he's better defensively. Because let's be honest, I said this on air. Paulie's going to make the team based on his left-handedness and the bat. He's not the best fielder defensively at third or first, but that, at least for the time being, is okay, because whether it's likely to be third base that he's going to play, right? And if that's the case, it's only going to be for a certain amount of time until Manny comes back, and so maybe you go with that. I had said Wade because I thought defensively he could hold it down better at third, personally. But certainly Graham Pauley has earned the right to this point to be in this discussion, and you could make the argument that he might be the favorite based on what we've seen over the last few days. So Wade came in and backed him up today, or I should say he was the next guy in that kind of competition. But Paulie certainly didn't hurt himself today. 2 more knocks today. I think you're right about Jackson. I don't think he's just solidified himself as as a roster spot, but I think he solidified himself as center field, at least for the time being. Does that mean that Jackson is a Gold Glove caliber center fielder right now? No, but I think he's proven that he can play the position, and you have to think that at his age and the way he works, he's going to get better at it. So I like what I've seen from Jackson. I think he's just. There are certain guys, and I bring up Fernando, and I don't mean to bring up Fernando in the sense of equally talented, right? But there's a certain way that you can just see how someone handles himself in big league camp. And there's a big difference to me this year compared to the past years where he was just kind of like happy to be there and just soaking it all in. He came in with a plan this year, it seemed like, to win that spot. And it initially started at left field. And now he very well may have parlayed this into a center field spot. And maybe it's a platoon between Profar and a Zokar, or however they want to slice it and dice it. But he's square in the middle of things. I think he's perfect where Shildt has consistently put him, right? 8th, 9th. Take some of the pressure off the young guy, and just let him go play. He doesn't need to be the somebody who needs. He doesn't need to be the guy who's like in the mix of trying to lead the offense. He just needs to be one of the guys so he can, continue to develop the way he has thus far. And I think you see nothing but good things from Jackson.
Well, I think that this is the best case possible scenario for the Padres in spring training, that mainly everyone that they needed to play well and try to make the team did play well, and they had tough decisions.
Now, listen, that is 100% truth, right? Like I don't envy Mike Shildt, his staff, AJ, because there are going to be some tough conversations that have to be had. Some guys are going to be going down to AAA that really deserve to make the team. But there's only 26 or 27 spots, I think, for this first series. But yeah, man, I think this is best case scenario for any organization. Is you go in with 3 spots, 3 competition spots, and all 3 are competitive, highly competitive. And the ones, I give you Matthew Batten. He was probably the favorite coming into this. And he didn't necessarily do himself any favors offensively, the way he swung the bat. And he was the guy who had to go down today. And so you're starting to some of those tough decisions already. More to come here in the next few days.
All right. We are way past break, but we will catch up more with Tony when we get back on 97.3 The Fan. But first, your traffic report. Vegas here on Gwynn and Chris. Don't know why I need to sing that. Tony Gwynn Jr. is in Arizona. I am in San Diego. And I was just watching Major League Baseball Network, MLB Network, and the Nationals and the Cardinals are playing. And this might be one of the worst camera angles I've ever seen in my life. It's basically on the ground from the outfield behind second base. So anytime a player leads off, it blocks the pitcher. I just don't even know. I can't deal with it, Tony. Can't deal with it.
Wait, say that again now.
The camera is basically like on the ground from center field. So when someone leads off second, it kind of blocks the pitcher.
Oh, see, that's the tough part about the true center field angle, right? Is your stadium or your building has to be, the camera has to be elevated high enough so that the guy on second base isn't in the way, but it can't be too high because then it makes it seem like pitches that are clearly, they look like strikes are like high. And so I think it's the best angle to actually tell about balls and strikes. You know, sometimes you get the kind of off towards, I'd say it's probably more left center. And so now the ball looks like it's doing all kinds of crazy running. And really, the reality is it's not doing that much running. So,
oh, well, that was a good breakdown. Thank you very much for that.
When there's a guy who used to sit next to his dad and watch film and then did it himself, you start to pick up these like nuances. There were so many times watching from the older angles that they used to have where it was kind of like left center, a little bit off center.
Yeah.
Where I've come into these games thinking like, man, this dude is, look at how much this ball is moving. And then you get in there in real life and it's not doing anything close to that. So
that's a bit of a different adjustment, like thinking that's going to move a ton and then it doesn't move.
And then it's like, I mean, a lot of times it worked in your favor because now you're like, oh, okay, I'm relieved now. This dude is not throwing balls that's moving like 18 inches.
Are you ready for MLB The Show? We were talking about it earlier.
Am I ready?
Did you already pre-order?
No, I haven't.
Well,
I'm a lazy Xbox guy now. Like I don't even buy physical games anymore. I just buy them, download them.
One of the other things that I don't do that either, which is kind of sad a little bit. But we're not using discs.
It is sad a little bit, but in the same regard, it's like you end up just with a bunch of games that over time you don't play them anymore. So they just sit there.
Yeah. My Sega Genesis is literally sitting in the corner of my room, and it's just gathering dust.
And now you get this, but I think it's cool about downloading them is that you have this big database of games that you've bought, and you can erase them and put them back on as much as you want. I think it's perfect.
That is perfect. Yeah, the reason we got on this earlier is because Chris asked me what I did over the weekend, and I said on Saturday I played a ton of video games, and he said, how much is a ton in one sitting? And I said,
in one sitting, like it's food.
5 or 6 hours.
Oh my God, you can play 5 or 6 hours in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I did.
That's crazy. I can't do that.
I was the online play of Call of Duty. I will have to say is addicting because you play well and then you don't, and you're like, I know I'm better than this, so you just keep going down the drain.
Everybody has to like be just outrageously ridiculous online in terms of how they talk to you. So I can't get on there, man. And somebody's always cursing at me because I'm not doing something right in those games.
They're like, man, you're supposed to get that badge over there. What are you doing?
Exactly. And it's some like 8-year-old cussing me out. So I'm like, you know what? This ain't worth it.
Next thing you know, you're being swatted, which is crazy. But no, I turn off the people.
I got a question for Tony. Does he go headset and like talk to the people while he's playing
video
games online?
I no longer play online. I only play the seasons against the computer. Now, somebody comes to the crib, they want to get down on the sticks. Cool, we can have a little one-on-one. But I can't play with people, man. These people are nuts out there. And plus, honestly, you find out how not good you are when you go online.
Yeah, you do find that out real quick. Like Madden, it's a whole different game between the computer and then an online play because somehow these players are getting their players to like glue to mine. I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, they cheat. This is another thing. They cheat online. I'm convinced of it.
I'm convinced too. So now you know what it feels like to know that someone is cheating, but you have no proof. Just like Chris's Fantabulous Sports Game Show.
No, that's not the same thing, Skraby. I know you want it to be, but it's not.
All right. Tony, thank you for getting to the show. We have to go to break though because we have Scott Miller. We talked a bunch of Padres with him earlier, so we'll do that when we get back here on 97.3 The Fan.
97.3 The Fan Traffic Center. Here's Kelly Danick.
Well, guys, here's your compensation for losing that hour of sleep. You get to drive home in broad daylight. Isn't this great? Yeah, still a few problems here. Eastbound King Freeway just before Euclid, crash blocking middle lanes. Also, eastbound side of the 8 past College, two-car collision over the right shoulder. Accident in the North County, northbound side of the 15. This is just before West Bernardo. Looks like you got several vehicles involved, and that is blocking middle lanes. I'm Kelly Danick with Gwynn and Chris, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Scott Miller, how are you, sir? Always great to talk to you and catch up with you, especially at this time of year.
Great time of year. Spring training, baseball. I mean, summer's about here. NCAA basketball tournament about to start. It is so much going on. So welcome at this time of year.
Awesome. And don't leave out NFL free agency, Scott, which is actually dominating the headlines today. Let me ask you about
when the NFL yawns, it dominates
headlines. See, Scott and I are on the same page with this. You're absolutely right, Scott. Well, let me ask you this, Scott Miller. Are you ready for the Graham Pauley and Jackson Merrill eras to begin with the San Diego Padres? I think it's looking pretty clear for sure that Jackson Merrill is going to be starting on opening day. And Graham Pauley's starting to get more and more playing time at third base as we get closer. I mean, are these young guys? We'll find out if they're ready. But I guess the question is, can young guys really make an impact this early in their careers?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, that's part of the fun of a new season to me. And, sometimes when you roll out some of the young guys that have this opportunity in front of them, and that it'll be interesting to watch and see how they respond and what they do. And, I mean, you think back to a couple different years with the Padres. Last year, everybody was hyped out of their mind, but it wasn't because of the young guys. It was because of Juan Soto and Machado and all the superstars already on board. And we saw how that worked out. I mean, a year ago at this time, it was almost like guaranteed roll into the playoffs and how deep do they play. But baseball doesn't work that way. And, sometimes, you go back with the Padres a couple years back to another young guy they were breaking in when he made the opening day roster, Fernando Tatis Jr. And nobody knew how that would play out. And boy, he hit the ground running and gave us all kinds of excitement. Now, I think he's probably a generational player. I don't think it'd be fair to, Jackson Merrill or especially Pauley to expect him to be anywhere near Tatis's rookie year level. But coming off of last year's colossal disappointment, I think bringing in some young guys, with some, fresh looks could be, probably is going to be a good thing. I mean, everybody's raving about Jackson Merrill. I love the stat, assuming he starts opening day in center field. Since 1900, there's only been 2 starting center fielders under the age of, 21? One was Ken Griffey Jr., one was Andrew Jones of the Atlanta Braves. That's pretty doggone good company for Jackson Merrill to step into.
That is great company for Jackson Merrill to step into. We're talking to Scott Miller here on 97.3 The Fan. And I don't know if this has changed, but I remember when Fernando was coming into, when he had a chance to make the opening day roster and make his debut, it was a talk about service time. Do the Padres want to start his clock? It doesn't seem like that's as much of a concern. Is that because it's not really a thing anymore, or are teams just looking past it now?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. It's a little bit of what you just said. It's not quite as much of a thing anymore. Teams are looking a little past it now. And, let's face it, part of what the Padres have going right now is a numbers game, right? I mean, not, trading Soto, trading Trent Grisham. I mean, they didn't have enough outfielders going into spring training to fill out a doggone 3-man outfield. It didn't seem like, they had to sign Jerks and Profar after camp started. And then they just had a whole lot of young guys. It's part of the budget cutting, where they traded Soto and Grisham and they weren't going to go out and add a lot of free agents unless it was out of desperation. And then it was going to be the lower tier, cheaper free agents. They certainly weren't going to, replace a Juan Soto with somebody, with a high Q rating like Soto had. So, part of it is, the service time isn't quite looked at since the last collective bargaining agreement as what it used to be. And I think teams recognize now that there's so much good young talent, from like in Baltimore, Adley Rutschman, guys like that, the kid playing shortstop in St. Louis this spring, Mason Wynn, that, teams are less afraid to start the young guys earlier in their career because, they're coming in more major league ready than they used to based on a whole lot of things, improved training techniques, travel ball from the time they're 10 or 11, great coaching across the board. So, I think teams are less scared of young guys. Young guys play big more quickly than they used to. And, like I say, in the Padres case, I mean, what you're going to lose in the service time battle, you're going to make up for it, but not, by lowering your budget this year, not having to pay, exorbitant prices for the Juan Sotos of it.
Scott Miller is with us, and Scott, I think you're 100% right. I mean, young guys are contributing in ways that they never did before.
Yep.
And practically all over baseball, we're seeing examples of this. I want to ask you about the Padre fans and whether or not some of them, many of them, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but those who feel like the Padres have let them down a little bit by lowering their payroll so drastically a year after they made it what it was, they've raised some ticket prices, etc. My point to them is that it would have been bad business to go over the luxury tax a third year in a row. It just cost too much money. It would have been irresponsible. And that they really have had no choice but to cut back on spending this year. And the fact of the matter is, they still have a contending payroll. And just because this year's isn't last year's doesn't mean it's fair to be upset with them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you laid it out pretty well. I would add, look, everybody was shocked at the payroll last year. I mean, you had the only teams outspending the Padres were the Mets and the Yankees. I mean, the two New York teams. And I think for local fans, I love the way the Padres now are an everyday part of so many people's lives. You only have to think back to the broken trust at the end of the John Moores era and then the disaster when Jeff Morad theoretically owned the team. I mean, the fans were turned off. The Padres were kind of ignored. You only have to compare it now to then. I mean, the Padres are relevant again. This ownership has made them relevant. You credit, the late Peter Seidler and Ron Fowler and, who stepped aside now and the Padres management for spending the money they did. I mean, I think last year was stunning. And I think for fans to expect last year's payroll, that the Padres would continue to be like the third or fourth highest payroll in the game, I think that's unrealistic, totally unrealistic expectations. I think, you can't sit here as a fan and expect the way the economics of the game are, a team in this market to spend like they did last year. I think the fact that what they spent the last 2 years, instead of fans being angry this year, they should, be thankful and credit the Padres for what they've done the last couple of years. They weren't going to be able to just keep spending money nonstop, uninhibited forever. Also, I think fans need to remember what they got from last year's team, which was a fall on its face. They didn't even make the playoffs. I think that factors into it because, there was all kinds of money, October money, playoff ticket sales and that kind of thing that I'm sure the Padres counted on that never showed up because they didn't make the playoffs. So last year, as much as they spent, it was, and as well as they drew, and with all those sellouts, it still wasn't ever going to be the financial windfall they thought maybe it would be if they didn't make the playoffs. So I think they had to adjust, recalibrate a little bit. And the other thing I would add under this umbrella is, longtime fans, think back to when Tom Warner came in as owner in the early 90s, and they had that fire sale. I mean, they traded away Fred McGriff and Roberto Alomar, and Hall of Famers and All-Stars. And that's not anywhere close to what's happening now. I mean, you've got a really interesting team to watch this year with, Machado. You got superstars of superstars across the game, like Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., Yu Darvish, Musgrove. I mean, you still got a lot of talent on this team. And back to where we started, if the Jackson Merrills of the world come in and play, this, I'm not going to predict this, but this year's team could end up being better than last year's just because they traded Juan Soto and cut payroll. It was not a fire sale situation. It's not like they offloaded all their talent.
Yeah, we're talking to Scott Miller here on 97.3 The Fan, Gwynn and Chris. And I think that Juan Soto, we've been talking about this for a while, but Juan Soto, I don't know your thoughts. The Padres got so much pitching, and now that Garrett Cole might have an elbow injury and all this other stuff, do you think that at some point the Yankees are going to regret trading all of their pitching away, or at least a lot of their pitching away?
They might, because you cannot fake pitching. I mean, I don't care what the new, whatever analytics you point to, you're going to look at, break the game down however you want to, on base percentage, slugging percentage, extra velocity. If you don't pitch, bottom line, if you don't pitch, you don't win. That's still how you win in this game. So, the Yankees are going to be a very interesting case study. And, I'll tell you what, the other thing is if Garrett Cole, if that MRI, depending on what that shows next few days, if he ends up, on the injured list or if it's significant, I could see all of a sudden the markets for the Yankees might increase that market for Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, the two best free agent pitchers that still are out there on the free agent market. I mean, if I'm Scott Boras today with those two as clients, I'm watching Garrett Cole and I'm talking. I'm sure there's already been communication with the Yankees, because you're right. I don't know if the Yankees, if they lose him after making the trades they did and trading the pitching to San Diego for Soto, they may end up needing to go right back into the free agent market. And I thought the trade was a good gamble for the Yankees, but I'm not as high on Juan Soto as a lot of people. I thought he was. I know his numbers ended up good at the end of the year last year, but I thought he was a bust. I've never seen. I just, guys with that kind of talent with a bat swing the bat. I've never seen an alleged superstar so desperate just to walk every time at the plate. And he didn't. I mean, I could go on. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I was thrilled, to be honest with you. I think Juan Soto is one of the biggest reasons they underachieved last year.
Scott Miller, music to my ears. I've been singing this Juan Soto thing by myself for 6 months now. It's nice to have a little support.
There you go. Scott Miller with Chris and I a little bit earlier. Matt Skraby here with you, finishing out Gwynn and Chris. Tony's getting ready right now for Korea, because they're leaving on Wednesday. And I just realized that on Friday, Padres are going to be having a game here right on 97.3 The Fan. And you might think, what, Friday? How is that even possible? They are traveling to Korea on Wednesday. Well, it's the spring breakout game. So they're going to be playing the Mariners, all of the younger players for the Padres, all of the prospects, minus probably Jackson Merrill, Graham Pauley, possibly Tyler Wade. Why do I do that? I do that every single time. This is my Jeff Goff moment. I cannot figure out that it's Tyler Wade, not Ward. But that's what they're so on Friday, we're going to have that on the station. You're going to get to hear from a game from some of the younger guys. And I know that the Orioles did it the other day. And I'll say it. I was tough on the name Spring Breakout. Not a big fan. I'm a guy who needs names to like be great for me to really get into it. But Spring Breakout just wasn't for me. But I got to say, after I watched some of that game between the Blue Jays and the Orioles, I was pretty pumped up about the Padres time when they're going to get to play, which is on Friday. Here's what happened with the, I guess, prospect extraordinaire, Jackson Holiday.
Cardinal Yankee, and Jackson flies a ball to right field. Springer twisting back, looking up. That ball is gone. Grand slam, Jackson Holiday.
Well, there you go. So things are going really well for Jackson Holiday right now. Things are going great for him. Things are going great for the Orioles. Things are not going great for the pitcher who gave that up, whose name is not even on the back of his jersey, which I guess makes sense. But he hit that basically out of the stadium. He really did. It was a pretty nice home run. And if your dad's name is Matt Holiday, I would expect we have something like that here on the show. Tony Gwynn Jr. Anyway, so that is what is going to happen on Friday. Pretty excited about that. Also, I know that Juan Soto hit one basically out of the stadium the other day. And you just heard Scott say it. And Chris and Scott, coming together over Juan Soto. I'm really, really curious to see what happens this year with Juan Soto and the Yankees, especially because the Yankees do have that worry now that Garrett Cole may not be able to start the year. No real indication yet, but they're going to MRI his elbow, and that could be really bad for the Yankees, considering they just traded a lot of their pitching away. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. I mean, it's not going to really affect us at all, but Juan Soto goes from a team that had struggling pitching to another team that has struggling pitching. And that's why Scott Miller thought maybe Blake Snell or some of these other guys are going to come up and or they're actually going to sign with the Yankees because they have no other choice. No other choice. All right, tomorrow, Chris should be back. Actually, the San Diego State women are winning 39-28 going into the third quarter, so that's good for them. Tony is with us for a full 4 hours tomorrow before he heads over to Korea. So join us tomorrow, 2 p.m., for a full 4 hours of Tony and myself, and then we'll see what happens with the Aztecs women's basketball team. So stick around. I am going to be taking over the Skraby Show here in about 5 minutes on 97.3 The Fan.